So very good afternoon to all of you, and a very good afternoon to my online students as well. Hope you are doing well. We are meeting after very long. It's been really long that I took a workshop, but I was looking forward to it. So there are three things that we are going to do today, and I'm sure that you are looking forward for 2026. This is 2026 session, right? Now there are three things that we are going to do today. Number one, I'm going to introduce you to one of my students who qualified UPSC this year. I'm not sure if you know about it or not, but you have a surprise. The interesting thing about my student is that she has covered the journey over a long period of time. So she was a beginner once, sailed through UPSC, understood all the challenges, created a strategy. It did not work for 3-4 years, then it worked, which means that she would be the perfect candidate to tell you what exactly not to do in your first two attempts. In fact, in your first attempt, so that you don't have to appear for two attempts. If at all this is your second attempt, she would be the best one to tell you what not to do. And then she'll focus on telling you what to do exactly. Once her session is over with you, then I'll take over. And I have some interactive elements which I have planned for you for current affairs, so that I can train you how to handle current affairs on your own if you're planning to study through self-study. See, the whole idea of this session was there is no agenda here, right? Do this, do that, join this, join that. That's not an agenda. The only idea of this workshop is to tell you how to prepare for current affairs if you are planning to do it on your own. If you need help, then I would tell you the elements where help should be taken. But the idea is to motivate you so that if you want to prepare on your own, you should be able to do it. So this is sort of empowerment session rather than a normal workshop. So I'm sure that you must be having a handout to my online kids as well. So in the handout, you can see I have attached some newspaper articles along with some MCQs. So we are going to do it today itself to give you an idea about how to approach current affairs. So first of all, let me introduce to you AIR 1, Shakti Dubey. So, and then we'll take on the session from there.
Hello everyone, my name is Shakti Dubey. I'm All India Rank 1 in this year's UPSC Civil Services examination. So here we are today to discuss about the current affairs strategy, what is to be followed, how we start, how we go ahead with that. Okay, so there are certain doubts that we have, I think. All right, good morning to online students as well. Good afternoon, sorry. So we'll have a session on the current affairs thing. Okay, I think that is clear. And first, I'll be detailing about how I went ahead with the current affairs, and then we'll just take some question answer things, what doubts you are having. Initially, as a beginner, I think सबसे common doubt that we have is the one that which newspaper to study or which newspaper to read. Okay, and there are two very common, very prominent that are there. One is your the Hindu, and another is the Indian Express. Now, first thing, settle this debate for all. It's just anyone. None is better, none is worst. कोई अच्छा बुरा उसमें नहीं है. Just one newspaper. But the idea should be to stick with it consistently throughout your preparation. Second point that I would like to highlight is newspaper is a source of information. It is not a source of knowledge. Do we understand the difference between the two? कुछ लोग कितना टाइम लगता है न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ने में? How much time do you guys give? 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Somebody is giving more than that. किसी का increase होता होगा 2.5. ठीक है. When I started initially, I used to give 2.5 to 3 hours to newspaper because I thought that my responsibility is to read the newspaper, pick up the themes, make notes out of it, revise things, link it to my static and all of that. And I used to give some 3.5 hour in the morning to the current affairs, ultimately getting exhausted. Because you will understand that newspaper में खाली polity नहीं है. Newspaper में you have polity, you have IR, you have economics. And initially when I started, I was not a humanities student. मुझे नहीं पता repo rate क्या है. I did not understand the meaning of defection if it's mentioned in the newspaper anywhere. ठीक है. So what I used to do is वही newspaper खोला, कहीं defection का term आया, now I'm searching it on Google, trying to understand. फिर थोड़ी देर बाद अरे disqualification तो अभी हम कहीं और नहीं कोई कर रहा था. President in consultation with EC इलेक्शन कमीशन, यहाँ पे स्पीकर कैसे आ गया, वाई स्पेसिफिकली स्पीकर फॉर डिफेक्शन, व्हाट आर द रोल्स दैट आर गोइंग ऑन, मर्जर्स में है, स्प्लिट में क्यों नहीं है. सो ऑल ऑफ दैट कंफ्यूजन स्टार्टेड पाइलिंग अप इन माय हेड, जिसकी वजह से व्हाट हैपेंड, आई स्टार्टेड गेटिंग मोर कंफ्यूज्ड. अब आ रहा है इकोनॉमिक्स, आई एम रीडिंग कॉन्ट्रैक्शनरी, एक्सपेंशनरी, एंड देन आई एम ट्राइंग टू लिंक. रियल एक्सचेंज रेट तो पढ़ा है, ये इफेक्टिव एक्सचेंज रेट क्या है, अब रियल है तो नॉमिनल क्या है, आर है तो एनईआर क्या है. ठीक है, ऑल ऑफ दैट. व्हाई एम आई ऑलवेज रेफरिंग विद रिस्पेक्ट टू डॉलर, कोई और करेंसी क्यों नहीं यूज कर रहे. सो मेनी थिंग्स एंड जस्ट लाइक 2.5 3 आवर 4 आवर ऐसे होने लग गया. बट देन आई रियलाइज्ड आई एम कंसिडरिंग न्यूज़पेपर एज माय सोर्स ऑफ नॉलेज. What am I doing? PhD कर रही हूँ ना मैं न्यूज़पेपर पे ideally. Opening it, reading it, searching it, again opening books, reading yellow book, class notes. So many things to do. Is my voice clear now? Okay. All right. So there are so many things to do. So in this journey of 5-6 years that you know, I realized one thing, that UPSC requires like very smart work instead of hard work. Okay. I have also put in 12-13 hours. I have put in, those 5-5-4-4 hours to make current affairs. I have read 5-6 books for every subject and I have failed badly. Then I come here with all of those experiences that I would like to share with you. There are certain common questions. Which newspaper to read? I have clarified. There should not be doubt and that FOMO thing. Please get out of that first. कि वो ये पढ़ रहा है तो मुझे भी ये पढ़ना चाहिए. You are comfortable in whichever newspaper, just stick to anyone. ठीक है. Initially मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा time लग रहा. How can I start reading like a pro? You not read like a pro in one day. It will take time because there is a specific vocabulary of the newspaper that is subject specific. If you don't have command over your static, you will end up giving lots of time to the newspaper. तो initially अगर ज़्यादा time लग रहा है, it's okay. ठीक है, क्यों? क्योंकि अभी static complete नहीं हुआ था. But आपके courses, like where have you guys reached? How many months of classes done? Completed. So now we have our static clear. अब कितना time लगना चाहिए मुझे? 1.5 hour maximum. Not more than that. I know students who are very much, interested in reading the editorials. Editorials आए हैं, उसको पढ़ना है, उससे notes बनाने हैं. I need to create all of that. Editorials can also be now classified into two types. One are those academic one. And if I talk about The Hindu, there is a text and context page जहाँ पे properly detailed academic articles are there that we called as academic. Since I was a The Hindu reader, so I know about that. I'm not very much ardent follower of Indian Express. ठीक है? तो एक होते हैं academic articles, दूसरे होते हैं political articles. Political articles means you understand if there is a defection in, say, any state assembly. Say I'm from Uttar Pradesh, there's a defection in UP state assembly elections. There will be naming of political parties, there'll be naming of who did all of that, there will be naming of why people are switching sides. उसको बोलते हैं political articles. Then comes those academic में भी एक आते हैं IR के articles. ठीक है, they talk about all of that in depth. If you are not a PSIR student, you have full liberty to skip them. You have to be very specific in choosing it. अभी तो chat GPT we have. Are we using it properly? कैसे यूज कर रहे हैं? Are you guys using chat GPT in your preparation? Prelims के आंसर देखने के लिए? नहीं. क्या कर सकते हो? जैसे अभी you guys don't have time. ठीक है? PSIR students here? Okay. What we guys can do is, I used to just name the article, like The Hindu, this article, summarize it into 10 points. All the 10 highlights of the articles are there on your screen. First thing. ORF website, you might have heard about. PSIR students are set to refer to that. What I used to do, just pick up the link, copy paste in chat GPT, mention I need the highlights of the given article. They'll provide you that highlight. So what is this? This is something I learned with time. I didn't start doing it at the first day. अगर किया होता तो 3 prelims I would have not failed. ठीक है, वो क्यों हुआ? बिकॉज आई वाज रेफरिंग टू सो मेनी थिंग्स. तो कुछ चीजें मैंने क्लियर की. न्यूज़पेपर विद टाइम, जब स्टैटिक इंफॉर्मेशन बिल्ड होगा, योर टाइम विल स्टार्ट डिक्रीजिंग. सेकंड थिंग, एडिटोरियल्स पे बहुत स्पेसिफिक होना है. ठीक है, व्हेन यू राइट मेंस, एनीबॉडी ऑफ यू हैव रिटन योर मेंस एवर? ये पहला प्रीलिम्स होने वाला है. कभी किसी ने कॉपी मेंस की पढ़ी है अपने टॉपर्स की? You have read that? You might have you ever heard the mention of some person who writes an editorial according to him? कोई ऐसा लिखता है? You'll always see things like second ARC, लॉ कमीशन, सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट्स, ठीक है, अशोक दलवाई कमिटी, ठीक है. अब इस तरीके से यू आर स्टडिंग व्हाट दोस कमिटीज दैट हैव बीन क्रिएटेड बाय द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया. मतलब जो भी आप मेंस में लिख रहे हो, दैट हैज टू बी सब्सटैंशिएटेड बाय गवर्नमेंट इनपुट. They might ask what do you think, but they actually don't care what do you think. You have to give some point, क्योंकि we are what, do we have that level of understanding कि हम गवर्नमेंट को सजेस्ट कर सकते हैं क्या करना है? नहीं. Do we understand the मतलब ऑन ग्राउंड रियलिटीज? नो. अभी तो यूपीएससी की कुछ किताबें पढ़ी है ना, अभी जो ग्राउंड पे चल रहा है वो तो हमें पता ही नहीं है. सो आर वी इन दैट स्टेट टू एडवाइज द गवर्नमेंट? What do? We pick up the advice. Agar there is an article on live-in relationship, if there is an article on UCC implemented by Uttarakhand, what do I pick up? I pick up the Supreme Court judgments where Supreme Court said that UCC is required. I pick up Law Commission ka statement where they say that UCC is neither desired not required. Kyunki abhi India mein itna, that level of maturity has not been reached where people can go for that, the single, because we have that communal harmony that we are trying to develop. So different religions, different, they have different perspective, and we need to respect that. ठीक है? तो अब ये क्या हुआ? ये लॉ कमीशन का स्टेटमेंट है. If I am mentioning that, nobody can come and doubt me or did not mark me on that or not give marks on that. तो आपको अगर एडिटोरियल से कुछ चीज पिकअप करनी है, pick up the government data, pick up the government, those things. Third thing, then should I stop reading the newspaper? Should I stop reading the editorials? No. अब इसके लिए I'll give an idea. If suppose there is a movie, कोई नई मूवी आई है अभी, Raid 2, ठीक है, चलो. Any one of you have seen here? कोई गया देखने? Very good. You are appearing for prelims this year. All right, ठीक है, ये भी अच्छी बात है. All right, देखो, अब you come here and you tell the story to everybody. ये चीज हुई थी, ठीक है. Second thing, you guys after prelims go and watch it yourself. कब आपको स्टोरी ज्यादा बेहतर तरीके से याद रहेगी? When you will go and watch that. अब वही चीज है the difference between newspaper and magazines. अगर मैं कहूं people are coming up, newspaper नहीं पढ़ते हैं ना, magazine तो आ ही रही है, I'll read that. It is just something that is given to you at one go. If I follow newspaper daily, I know the chronology, how Russia Ukraine started, what were the issues, how we proceeded, what were the new actors daily entering into that field. तो वो एक storyline I'll develop, I'll have all of that, and जिसकी वजह से continuity रहेगी. दूसरी चीज, इफ आई एम रीडिंग सर्टेन थिंग अगैन एंड अगैन, अगर मैं रोज न्यूज़पेपर खोल रही हूँ और मुझे यूनाइटेड नेशन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल टर्म दिख रहा है, आई नो दैट यूएनएससी वाज देयर इन न्यूज and therefore I realize that United Nation is an important body. कभी इकोसॉक न्यूज में है, कभी यूएन क्लॉज न्यूज में है, कभी यूनेस्को न्यूज में है. इसका मतलब यूनाइटेड नेशन इज एन इंपॉर्टेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. हाउ डू आई नो दैट? Because daily I'm reading the newspaper and daily I come across certain terms. Magazine में you'll get it just one time. आपको क्या लगेगा? मुझे भी बस एक ही बार पढ़ना था इसको, right? But that's not how it works. Third thing that I would like to solve for you is, should we make notes from newspaper or not? I will tell you, note making is something that you need to understand. Note making का मतलब ये नहीं होता कि जो लिखा है उसको मैंने पॉइंट में छाप दिया, तो आप न्यूज़पेपर ही हाईलाइट करके रख लो ना, फिर इट इज दैट इजी फॉर यू. बहुत इजी रहेगा, टाइम बचेगा. बट विल यू बी एबल टू एवर पिक ऑल ऑफ दैट अप एंड रीड इट अगेन? आप जो नोट्स बनाते हो, हैव यू एवर रेफर्ड देम अगेन? कभी रिवाइज करा है? तो क्यों बनाया? वो जो इनिशियली हमने 2 आवर दिया था पर डे, व्हाई डिड आई इवन वेस्ट दैट? तो क्या करना चाहिए था? देन इसका मतलब न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ो और आगे बढ़ो? नहीं. देयर इज अ वे ऑफ मेकिंग नोट्स फॉर द न्यूज़पेपर एंड दैट्स कॉल्ड थीम बेस्ड नोट मेकिंग. थीम बेस्ड का मतलब, इफ फ्रंट पेज पे आज कोई आर्टिकल है ऑन अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ अ न्यू सीजेआई, आई अंडरस्टैंड अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ सीजेआई इज द न्यूज. I just mentioned appointment of CGI. There is UNSC in news. I mentioned United Nations Security Council. If there is forest fire in news, I mentioned California forest fires. I don't write what is there. I just mention the themes that are there. Now comes second thing. Suppose United Nations Security Council was in news. Why it was in news? Maybe say India elected to the non-permanent membership of that. I'll just mention one line. India was elected as a non-permanent membership. खत्म. So that I have a folder as an intro कि अगर कल यूएनएससी पे कोई क्वेश्चन आता है, I can start recently India was elected as इतना इतना to the UNSC. तो there is a current intro that I have already and I know UNSC was important because it has been there in the news. तो इसको बोलते हैं theme based newspaper के notes बनाना. I'm not writing everything from the newspaper. Now अब जैसे आज I have got 20 themes in the newspaper. कल मुझे कितने मिलेंगे? 18 हो जाएंगे, 15 हो जाएंगे. क्यों? बिकॉज बहुत सी थीम्स तो रिपीट होंगी ना डेली बेसिस पे. सो व्हाट यू विल फाइंड एट द एंड ऑफ द मंथ, यू विल हैव some or the other, like some 30 40 50 odd themes मिल गई मुझे. Now what I do I just have that UNSC India elected to इतना. Now I can go for active recall. लिखा सब कुछ नहीं था, मैंने एक्टिव रिकॉल करने की कोशिश की, मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा है कि क्यों था वो न्यूज में. डू आई हैव गूगल? इफ आई मेंशन यूएनएससी यूपीएससी, पूरी वेबसाइट्स अभी जितने रीसेंट आर्टिकल्स आए होंगे, दे ओपन इट देयर. व्हाई डोंट आई गो फॉर स्मार्ट वर्क देन फॉर द हार्ड वर्क? टाइम बचेगा, एक्टिव रिकॉल करेंगे, ब्रेन इज इन दैट रिट्रीविंग मोड ऑल द टाइम, इट्स नॉट इन दैट फीडिंग और मगिंग अप मोड ऑल द टाइम. ठीक है. नाउ हाउ डू आई यूज माई मैगजीन्स देन? करंट अफेयर्स भी पढ़ लो, थीम भी नोट कर लो. अब रिसाइटल्स भी पढ़ना है क्या? नहीं. ओपन योर रिसाइटल्स, गो टू द कंटेंट पेज. अपने थीम्स आपने रखे थे, मैप किए, थोड़ा एक बार इसके थीम्स पढ़ लो. मोर और लेस अगर आपने न्यूज़पेपर कलेक्ट अच्छे से फॉलो किया था, दैट विल बी सेम ओनली. समथिंग दैट यू फाइंड न्यू, देयर आर चांसेस कि इन्वायरमेंट इकोलॉजी में नए मिलेंगे, बिकॉज वी ऑल्सो कवर डाउन टू अर्थ इन द मैगजीन्स, वी ऑल्सो कवर साइंस डायरेक्ट इन द मैगजीन्स. तो ऐसे सब्जेक्ट्स में देयर आर चांसेस यू माइट कम अक्रॉस सर्टेन ऐसे थीम्स जो आपके थीम में नहीं थे. गो एंड रीड ओनली दैट. डोंट यू सेव मच ऑफ योर टाइम. इससे आपको आइडिया मिल जाएगा कि ठीक है, कलेक्टिवली अब जो यू आर क्रिएटिंग द थीम्स फॉर अ मंथ, दैट इज समथिंग यू हैव प्रिपेयर्ड ऑन योर ओन, सो यू विल रिमेंबर. ठीक है. सेकंड थिंग, मैंने उसको 2-3 बार एक्टिव रिकॉल करने की कोशिश की. आई हैव स्टार्टेड रिटेनिंग दैट इंफॉर्मेशन एज वेल. आई हैव क्रॉस चेक्ड इट फ्रॉम द रिसाइटल्स. सो जो भी नए थीम्स भी होने थे, दैट इज ऑल्सो देयर इन माई बुक्स. Now I don't run back of PT when everybody is running back of it, because I have already created my own compilation since the beginning and I trust that source. ठीक है. तो ये जो था फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट में, व्हाट आई यूज्ड टू डू, 3 घंटे दिया. अब इकोनॉमिक्स का रेपो रेट आया, पूरा आई एम डूइंग रिसर्च ऑन माई गूगल, रेपो रेट क्या क्या है. मेरे पास नॉलेज नहीं थी, बैकग्राउंड. कोचिंग खत्म हुई, फाउंडेशन कोर्स वाज डन. आई हैड बिल्ड माई फाउंडेशन. माई टाइम रिड्यूस टू 2.5. क्यों? क्योंकि 1 आवर आई एम रीडिंग न्यूज़पेपर, 1.5 आवर मैं नोट्स बना रही थी. Then I realized I'm never picking that up again. तो थर्ड अटेम्प्ट में मैंने नई चीज सीखी, and that was to create that theme based notes. ठीक है. अब आता है कुछ, अब आपको लग रहा हो कि मैं यहाँ एडवर्टाइज करने खड़ी हूँ स्मार्ट करंट अफेयर्स. नहीं. आई विल टेल यू हाउ आई यूज्ड इट, बिकॉज यू हैव टू बी वेरी क्लियर इन एवरीथिंग दैट वी हैज बीन प्रोवाइडेड टू यू. मेरे साथ क्या हुआ, आई कुडंट राइट मेंस फॉर 3 straight attempts. पहले 3 में आई कुडंट क्लियर द प्रीलिम्स. व्हेन फर्स्ट टाइम आई क्लियर्ड प्रीलिम्स, इट हैड बिकम सच अ बिग फोबिया फॉर मी दैट मैंने पूरे अटेम्प्ट में मेंस तो पढ़ा ही नहीं था. जो थर्ड अटेम्प्ट तक था, आई डिडंट स्टडी एनीथिंग अबाउट मेंस. I was out of touch from so many things. So when I first time cleared my prelims in fourth attempt and 3 महीने में 2.5 months में had my mains, I realized one thing. क्योंकि प्रीलिम्स आ रहा था, मैंने इको सर्वे, बजट वगैरह सब स्किप किया था. बट नाउ आई नीड दैट फॉर राइटिंग सम वैल्यू एडिशन मटेरियल. तो ये था कोर्स दैट वाज अवेलेबल विथ मी. आई डिडंट गो फॉर एवरी सब्जेक्ट. अब आप भी देख सकते हो, कुछ आपका स्ट्रॉन्ग सब्जेक्ट होगा. लाइक आई न्यू दैट माई say social issues is well prepared. I don't need to go for that. सबसे बेस्ट लेक्चर्स जो करंट अफेयर्स के होते हैं, वो होते हैं इकोनॉमिक सर्वे और बजट के. Why I tell that? They will have fodder for GS paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, paper 4, everything that you need. Why? They talk about society, they talk about women, it will talk about digital literacy, it will talk about mental health, it will provide some good books. Sir mentioned one of the book here, The Great Rewiring of Generation, and I quoted in my essay because one essay was on impact of social media on youth. तो वो कहाँ से मिला? प्रॉपर डेटा था. दिस टाइम इकोनॉमिक सर्वे हैड अ डेडिकेटेड पेज ऑन मेंटल हेल्थ रिलेटेड टू दिस सोशल मीडिया, एंड सर हैज टॉट, अगर आप लोगों ने फॉलो करा होगा लास्ट ईयर का करंट अफेयर्स बजट इकोनॉमिक सर्वे. तो ठीक है. सो व्हाट आई यूज्ड टू डू इज, मैंने इसको बहुत ही सेलेक्टिवली रेफर किया था. बट वंस आई प्रिपेयर्ड द नोट्स, बिकॉज सर हैंड आउट भी प्रोवाइड करते हैं, चीज उसमें क्लियरली लिखी होती है, यू जस्ट हैव डेटा, फैक्ट्स, फिगर्स. स्टार्ट क्रिएटिंग, यू नो, ही विल डू वन थिंग दैट वो क्लब कर देते हैं हम ना. जब हेल्थ पे बात करें तो पूरा हेल्थ पे बात करेंगे, be it digital health, be it schemes, be it expenditure of the government, be the cost of, you know, out of the pocket expenditure, everything is there. तो मैंने उसको रेफर किया because I had very less time. prelims के बाद मैंने किया था, and I just used all of the data to create that multi-dimensional answers. So now अभी कुछ clarity आई जो मैंने बोला उससे, कितना टाइम देना है, ठीक है, कौन सा न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ना है, नोट्स बनाने हैं नहीं बनाने हैं, किस एडिटोरियल पे कितना टाइम देना है. आर वी गेटिंग ऑल ऑफ दैट? सो इट हैज टू बी like that. If you have followed your current affairs very thoroughly, you will also realize, जब आप पहला prelims लिखोगे ना, and you will get into that, you know that you are making it, you will realize 3 months are very less. बहुत कुछ करना होता है उस 3 महीने में, पूरा ऑप्शनल रिवाइज करना होगा. Ethics most of you will study or read for the first time in that gap अच्छे से, you know, previous year questions and all. तो वो सारी चीजें जब होंगी पहली बार ना, तब आपको दिखेगा कि टाइम वो 24 में कोई 28 कर दे उसको, 28 आवर्स, बिकॉज वो नहीं है. सो that's why I think this made my task a bit easier. अभी तो चलो थोड़ा पेड है, पहले initially Jains I used to teach it freely on the YouTube, it was available, so I had followed economic survey and budget from there. From there you will get every year some new themes, क्योंकि economic survey is based on a theme. कभी invisible hand theory पे based है, कभी आपका कुछ ना कुछ, मतलब some of the other terms will be there. Thalynomics was a term that was there from economic survey. So you'll get everywhere some new themes also for that. Yuva theme was there for the budget last year, we had that. तो इस तरीके से pick up terms, because जो government एक बार use कर दी है, that is something now that's common and you're free to use it wherever you want. ठीक है? So this was my idea. If now we have something, so can just go ahead. I'll be taking.
So thank you, Shakti. And guys, I didn't tell you one thing about Shakti. Two things which is very special about her. Her preciseness from day one. Not because she has cracked the exam. Even if she would not have cracked the exam last year, I would have said the same thing had we met last year. The clarity of thought and the preciseness, and how does it come to one's personality? Through reading, through introspection, and through creating your own strategies. That's what I felt about her. And one interesting thing when she cracked the exam, which got me reminded, is the very fact that my first batch in Vajiram in GS, she was my student. And the very year in which she cracked the exam, she is my student in Smart Current Affairs program. So that's why I'm really proud of her and the
Thank you
journey
so much,
that
sir.
she has traveled. I have seen it all. So, and thank you so much, Shakti, for addressing to the queries related to current affairs. Guys, is there anything that you would like me to ask to Shakti on your behalf, maybe related to current affairs specifically? Because she has spoken almost about every subject. You can find other videos on Vajiram. But to current affairs, I thought that since she has seen those 4 or 5 years of struggle, where she would have definitely learned what not to do. So precisely speaking, that's the reason I got her for you guys. So Shakti, one question which I want to ask you from my side: can one, sail through the journey of UPSC without making any current affairs notes by, putting your own efforts? Can we use ready-made materials?
Okay, let's then say it that way. Prelims में current affairs का क्या role है? Mains में क्या role है? Interview में how it is playing a role? In prelims, I'll tell you, it is like if I don't know what is going on in the current, I'll never be able to pick up the topic from my static for priority areas. Did you get that? If there is president's election, 2023, there was an MCQ on president election. Chandrayaan 3 was launched. There was a direct question on the Chandrayaan 3, the payloads, etc. in the mains. So I'll tell you, the current affairs is very important for you to selectively read. Now prelims are in 3 weeks. Can you revise everything and then go on the D-Day? No. There will be some priority areas जो आपने mention किए होंगे. कुछ ऐसी चीजें that you might not be able to retain, and certain things that you thought are important. And how do you know they are important? Because they were there in the current affairs. Talking about environment and science and tech, it is solely current affairs. They don't even ask now static themes. There were initially some static questions coming up, but now questions are directly picked up from the current affairs and they are asked. Moving on to mains. Mains is such a predictable stage if you guys are in touch with the current affairs. If Cholas were there in news because of Sengol being placed, Cholas art and architecture will be asked. If James Webb Telescope released some new images, James Webb Telescope was there in the news. I can literally map each and every question from the current affairs. DPDP Act, Digital Personal Data Protection Act, they have asked this year. Okay? Similarly, any act, any bill, anything that's there in the news, that will be asked by UPSC. So current affairs is something without which you are directionless. Then you are like sab kuch hi padhna hai. And in order to be very precise in your preparation, very specific, you should be aware about the current affairs. Coming to the third stage, that is the interview. There your knowledge will not matter about the current affairs, your perspective will. Because they will never ask what's going on in Russia, Ukraine. They'll ask you how it is impacting the global world order, how it is impacting India's relation with the West, how it is impacting India's relation with Russia. So there is something called as perspective building that comes into picture in the interview stage. So any stage, if I say I could have negated the current affairs, that would be very wrong on my part. And if you did that, it's going to, like, you'll see the impact once you appear for the prelims this year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was a very elaborate explanation about that. And my final question to you, Shakti: how to handle data? Because that's a question which I'm getting from almost everyone there.
Yes.
So if you could throw some light on that.
Because, sir, one thing I understood when I tried reading the current affairs on my own, economic survey budget, you'll find there are charts they'll give so much data. And one of the best thing that I got in this current just economic survey lectures is, sir will tell you convert that data into trend. When you convert the data into trend, increasing hai, decreasing hai, theek hai, and you just remember the इस साल का data, most of the work is done. So I used to follow that pattern, that trend I'll keep in mind instead of mugging up or memorizing the data. But then comes certain important facts जो याद करने पड़ते हैं, like percentage of GDP on health. Because there is a committee which has recommended कि 2% तक तो जाना चाहिए. Now, if government is below that, I should be aware of it. Percentage of expenditure on R&D, on defense, because ये चीजें news में रहती है. They are always there in the news. Some data and facts, yes, you do need to mug up. Some scheme के specifics, yes, you need to mug up. ठीक है? Because UPSC is asking like that. But most of 80% of that goes by trend. Even if you know the trend, you'll be able to answer if it has been increasing, decreasing, or कैसे fluctuating like that.
So thank you so much, Shakti.
Thank you,
Thank you so much for taking our time for us and for our students. They will learn a lot from you, and we wish you all the best for your endeavors. And we know that the country is in the right hands. Being your faculty, I can vouch for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thanks
guys.
a lot.
And thank you so much, sir. And all the very best. Hope you all get to write the mains this year, and we'll come up with some new ideas of how to, get through these data, fact, current affairs, and everything. So all the very best to the online students as well. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Abhishek. So guys, as I was telling you, that you would learn a lot through these small points that she has spoken about. So for example, I was listening to what Shakti was saying, and I remember her first question, which she asked me way back in 2018. Her first question to me in a GS class and after the GS class was that I don't know what to do for this exam. That is how it started. And there we are. I invited her specifically for this session so that she could tell it to the future generation of IAS officers, which is you guys, about what exactly to do. The only reason that I was interested in bringing her, not because of her rank, obviously, because I don't see a difference between rank 1, 5, or 10. It's not about that. The reason that I got her was because, can we increase the volume? Because having spent almost like 6 years in a preparation cycle, starting from the first question, because I don't know many of the students who qualified, because not everybody was from my batch. But I knew her, and I knew her first question, I don't know what to do. From there, if she has come up to this stage, obviously she has seen more failures than success. That's the reason that she was here in this session, because I wanted to set the tone for you so that you would not make those mistakes. Now, I'm going to exactly train you the way we trained the rest of the students, and I can tell you with a lot of pride that from the Smart Current Affairs program, which we started last year, so it was the first batch, we got 60 plus selections, rank 1, rank 5, rank 6, and they were all our classroom students, online and offline. So what I thought is, if you want to go for self-study, what are the things that I can bring from that program to you, so that you can give it a good try, an honest try, and implement those ideas. It will definitely help you. So I'm going to break down current affairs one by one in various elements and tell you a holistic perspective today. I'm planning to have another session where I'll be telling about answer writing for current affairs. There would be another session where I'll talk about a different aspect like data management for current affairs. But today it will be overall perspective. As I told you that my agenda of coming here is to give you an idea so that starting from today, you should have a structured plan about how to go for current affairs on your own. That's the agenda. So we'll start with this. Let's see. And you keep your handouts ready. Even if you don't have the handout, it's fine. If you have it, great, because I'm going to make you refer to the handout sometimes. I'll show it to you here as well. It will really help you. So we'll make it interactive so that you also participate and learn about it. Now, see, guys, these are the various newspapers that you normally see, and we get confused about which newspaper to pick, what to do, etc. It's a very personal choice, but if I have to pick 2 newspapers to prepare for UPSC, that would be the Hindu, you know it, and the Indian Express. Which newspaper should you make as a base newspaper? Any of them. So, for example, you can make Hindu the base paper, but the explained articles which come in Indian Express and some economics related articles which are published in Indian Express, I can tell you that they are really good. So if you're making the Hindu as your base newspaper, then from Indian Express, the explained page, as well as the economics related news, which I really like. So this is the combination which I'll go for. If you're going the other way around, for example, if you're making Indian Express as your base, then you have to do a lot of sections from Hindu, for example, the editorials, the science and technology, the IR, these parts you will have to do, and the critical evaluation part, you will have to do it from Hindu. So almost 10 years back or 7 years back, if I was giving this talk to students, I would not ask them to refer to two newspapers at all. Never. But if I'm saying this for the current trend of UPSC, then I'll tell you that you can make one newspaper as your base, which you are reading cover to cover, but then you need to supplement one or two things from the other newspaper. Not the whole thing, but one or two things. So you have to smartly pick it up, that what to pick from the other newspaper. Like I gave you an example. Take Hindu as a base example. And then from Indian Express, if I were you, I'd pick up the economics related news. And I've got some examples today to show it to you. So the newspaper debate is settled that which one to pick. So either of them as base and one or two articles here and there. As Shakti was also telling you that if your current affairs is good, it will help you in different areas of GS. But let me tell you precisely how it will help you. There's a slight, detailing that I'm going to do for you. It will really help you to set the tone. So guys, my plan is this. Today we'll talk about current affairs. One day I want to talk about answer writing, as I told you. I am also planning to take one session about how should you create a plan for next 1 year for 2026. But I wanted to start with current affairs because if you know this, at least from today, you can start to implement. Then you can add on to it when I take a session on how to go about your preparation journey for next 1 year. But today will be the current affairs. So see, you have 3 stages of the exam. The first stage is the prelims, where the average number of questions that you'll see from current affairs is roughly around 30 to 35. It could be 30, it could be 35. In one of the years, I remember 2015, the number of questions in UPSC prelims directly from current affairs were 50. 49 to 50 questions directly from current affairs. So that was a very different kind of prelims. It was almost like a shocker to many, because an ideal exam should be a mix. But who told you UPSC is ideal? It's an exam. Exams are never ideal. Exams are meant to surprise you because the word is exam. So that's why we'll take this general trend as what we'll find in the exam, 30 to 35 questions in the prelims. I'll tell you how the questions are framed. Then you see GS paper 2, GS paper 3, optional and essay. I remember this incident which happened in the class. So since last year, I started to convert my economic survey and budget lectures into very interactive and exhaustive lectures, which means that things that I used to teach in 1 hour, now I make it very interactive with all my students in the class, participative, and we have a nice discussion about it. So it usually takes longer. In the class, I do bring out some novels, some books which are connected to those areas. So that's what Shakti was referring to. So last year, I recommended 4 books. I think they were all 4 novels which were written by some US authors. One was written by somebody from Turkey. So there were different books that I recommended in the class. And fortunately, we got an essay in the exam where one of the books could be quoted. But random books are never recommended in a classroom like this. Those books that we recommend to you would only be related to either policy making, implementation, governance, something like that. So even if you don't get time to read those books, it really doesn't matter, because we'll give you a 5-minute summary which you can use in your essay. So current affairs has a huge application in GS paper 2. I'll show it to you where. Then GS paper 3, optional, essay, and GS 1 and 4. I believe I can give you examples that reference of current affairs can be made in the introduction of your answer. It will make your answer really stand out. So I don't feel that in GS paper 1 or paper 4, directly you can start writing current affairs in a very raw form. That would be disastrous, because these are not meant to test your current affairs, but these are meant to test issues and your opinion about issues where you can bring current affairs. So that's why I'm keeping it as a reference. That's current affairs. The reference can be made in GS paper 1 and 4. So I didn't write it here. Now, if you look at interview, that's what I have seen based on a very good sample size over last 10 years, having spoken to almost thousands of students who have gone for interviews, etc. Very fortunately, I could speak to a lot of them. So when you have a good sample size, you get a nice trend. So from that, I got to know that the interview questions mostly are understanding or opinion based, which are derived from current affairs. So they'll pick up a current event, right? And through the current event, for example, the tariff war which is happening, that's a current event. So through, and I have got some current event from polity and governance today, which I'll show you. So a lot of, and you know that recently, legislature and executive, they have criticized the judiciary a lot. So judiciary is likewise criticizing the legislature, executive. They are saying that everything is subject to judicial review, and legislature and executive, they are saying that first look into yourself about how you are working and what your efficiency is. So today only, I think not today, but yesterday I got an article related to it where the judiciary is actually saying that for petty things, for small things, you should not come to courts. There should be a mechanism where through arbitration, you could solve those issues at a very grassroots level. President also spoke about it. And CJI and the president, they both agreed that yes, we can start arbitration at the very grassroots level, which is panchayats. From there, it can start. And they have already defined the contours that what kind of topics can be, put through arbitration at the grassroots level. So the kind of issues that can be put is something which has the potential to destroy the harmony and peace of the society. So they are saying those kind of things can be handled at panchayat level, because a beautiful example has been used by CJI in yesterday's newspaper, where CJI says, there is an article where CJI says that if you bring those issues to us, we will give you the treatment, but we cannot eliminate the root cause. The root cause can be eliminated by the society and the community, because that is where the problem arises. What a beautiful thing he has said. And their president and the CJI, they agreed. They said that yes, through community building, through community cohesion, we should be doing arbitration at the very basic level, which is panchayat. From there, we should build upon it. So don't you feel, I can show you some quotations also, which has been told by the president and CJI. So don't you think that these are the topics which are absolutely amazing topics for GS paper 2? Then essay could be asked in interviews. So literally you could actually brainstorm, discuss, think about it, write something, and you will see when you reach interview, they'll ask you this question. In essay, they will ask you these questions. So that's how the current affairs makes your whole personality very different. But then anything which is very interesting, which is very useful, you have to use it in a very disciplined manner, because it's an ocean. It never ends, because you can go on speaking, you can read stuff, you can read current affairs, but where to stop? That's the whole point. So I'm coming to that. But before that, these are the dimensions which I feel has to be looked into, and some facts are also asked in the interview. I'll tell you what. So through my interaction with students, I got to know that there have been a couple of students who are from science background. They went into the interview. The moment they entered, they greeted the board, and the first question that the board asked them, so this year, what is the total GDP of India in dollars? After good morning, after good afternoon, this was the first question. The student was a little shaken that GDP of India in dollars. I know the rate of growth of GDP 6 to 7% will be the universal answer. If you ask me the question that what is the rate of growth of GDP since last 5 years, I'll say 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7. That will be the case next year also. But if you ask me the absolute value of GDP of India, wow, you need to know it. So taken aback. Similarly, when an economics student went inside, the question that was asked was, so which engine would be used in PSLV4? Right? So do you really think that these are the questions which are asked to test your facts? I don't think so. Because fact testing has already been done in prelims and mains. But yes, some genuine things are asked. For example, when you go to them, they will ask you the question that, why are you selecting IAS? And the moment you start to say, because I want to serve the society at grassroots level, they will say, okay, then can you please tell me at grassroots level, how many people are absolutely poor in India? Now, that's the question which was asked this year. Now, how many people are absolute poor? So absolute poverty, relative poverty, and they ask the figures. Now, you are saying you want to work at grassroots level because that's your passion, that's what you deeply feel for. And suppose you don't have a figure, and you black out there. You say like 1 crore. 1 crore people travel through Rajiv Chowk metro station every day. You can't give answer as 1 crore, right? So you have to think in those terms, right? So some facts are also very important for interview, where they would expect that you should know this. Even though they are not testing facts, but they expect that you should know this. So that's why some facts are important, but mostly understanding and opinion based. That's your current affairs part. Chalo, but first let's come to prelims. And let me show you where current affairs can actually help you to crack the exam, where current affairs can create a problem for you. This you will not get, don't worry, because these numbers keep on changing. After the prelims, this whole table will change. So don't worry, I'll have another session where I'll give you the new numbers, but yahan pe dekhiye, look carefully. From here, I'll pick just 1 or 2 things. So look at these subjects and look at these years and look at this average number of questions. I'm going to show you something. So look at economics. Last year, when I conducted this kind of session, last year, it was 25 questions. So average has come down. Now it has become 20. Why? Because polity has increased. Earlier, polity used to be somewhere around 10. Now it has become 15 regularly. Geography used to be 8. Now the average has increased to 12. And these two have maintained their average. History and culture has maintained the average. So history and culture is very close to economics now. 16, 18, 20, somewhere very close. Now look at IR part. That's an amazing entry. It has created its own space in the prelims, whereas earlier IR was only reserved for mains. And then you have miscellaneous current affairs. So which are those subjects where you will find heavy current affairs orientation of UPSC? Economics, out of 20, roughly 14 questions, sometimes 15 also, they are derived out of current affairs. Then polity, you will hardly find much. You will find current affairs in environment, heavy current affairs orientation. Then science and technology, very heavy. And then you will find IR, almost current affairs, and then miscellaneous. If you add them, somewhere you will get very close to 30, 32. You will get close to 30. And this is what UPSC asks. If you add them, no, so sometimes economics will be out of 20, 17 current affairs or related to current affairs. I'll show you examples. Sometimes direct 15 current affairs question. So if you add them, you directly get roughly around 30 questions which are current affairs oriented. So you know that if you have to prepare current affairs for prelims, where your focus should be. Now convert this into a mains discussion, and polity and governance will also be added. Because in mains, you cannot prepare for the exam if you don't prepare governance and polity from current perspective. But I have divided the discussion into two parts. First is prelims and the second is mains. So that's your prelims part. So in prelims, I won't put polity as one of the most important areas, even if the polity questions are derived from some current event. So that is basic, like 1 or 2 questions, maybe 3 questions. But I can't call polity as current affairs a heavy subject for prelims. But these other subjects that you see, environment, science and tech, they're very heavily oriented towards current affairs. So I know that I'll keep on studying polity and I'll keep on building my base for mains. Maybe it will help me in prelims also. But in these areas, you cannot get away from current affairs. If you're not doing IR for prelims related to current affairs, huge mistake, 5 to 6 questions directly asked in the exam. So these are the areas which I feel is very crucial based on this data and the fact. Now let's come here. Let's see this. देखो कुछ है ये. This is based on the analysis of almost like 7 to 8 years. So to my online students or offline guys, you have a look at the board. I'll keep on telling you which area to refer to. See. So for example, if I take this whole circle as current affairs, this UPSC, 100 questions are coming in the exam. Then I told you that roughly 1/3 is current affairs and roughly 2/3 is static. Can I compromise my static? This is a current affairs session, but should we compromise static at no cost? And I'll show you without static how current affairs can leave you paralyzed. This is the new trend since last 2 years. That's why I got some examples for you today as well. So I know that my natural inclination will be to tell you that without current affairs, nothing is possible in life. But I won't make that statement because the fact is something else. The fact is without static, it's not possible to crack this exam. Current affairs can be icing on the cake, but current affairs cannot be the cake. The cake is your static part. Current affairs will add on to it. But today's session, since it is focusing on current affairs, so I'll reserve all the ideas that I have to tell you related to current affairs. Another session which I told you will be on static areas. Now see, 1/3 of your questions, that is from current affairs, 30 to 35. And I told you there is 1 year, 2015, where roughly 50 questions were asked from current affairs. This is called as odd trend. This is odd. This is not normal. So I shouldn't prepare for this. I should give equal importance and respect to static areas. So this is odd. I'll take it out. Now, what are the types of current affairs questions which are asked in the exam? This is what I have identified since last 5 to 6 years. I'll show you examples also. So the first is fact and data related, which many of you online, when Shakti was here, I could see that you were asking this question. So facts and data related questions. The second is when a current event is taken as a reference and it is mapped to a static part and the question actually is asked from static part. Something current has happened. They will take that as a benchmark, but they will not ask you that question. They will convert that question into a static part. This is mostly done in subject. I have seen that happening in culture. I have seen that happening in polity. I have seen that happening in economics as well. So they will not directly ask you current affairs, but the basis of this question will be current affairs of that year. This is very dangerous kind of question. It's very deadly kind of question. I'll show you the questions also. The third is there is a question which they will create, something they'll mention that which of the following is correct. Option number 1, option number 2, option number 3, option number 4. The first 2 options will be fact. The second 2 options will be static related to it. Again, very dangerous. Because if you're not good in this, gone. If you're not good in concepts, gone. Which means that you need to somewhere maintain a balance. The fourth type of question is reasoning based questions. Again, very dangerous. This is a new trend of UPSC. What do? They give you two statements and they will tell you what leads to what. So statement one leads to statement two, two leads to one, these kind of statement. This is called as if then statements. If statement one happens, then will statement two happen. So many a times what happens is the two statements that they pick, no, statement one and statement two, what they do is they pick these statements from current affairs. And then they will frame this kind of question where you have to use some previous logic from your static areas. Actually, this is current affairs. Earlier, we used to think that current affairs means data and fact. Now, current affairs has evolved actually over a period of time. So if you try to find out in the exam pure current affairs, you might not be able to find, because current affairs is diluted like this. So everywhere you will see some elements in the current affairs. I can tell you a spoiled kind of question. Suppose there is a question where option number 1 is static, 2 is static, 3 is static, 4th is data. And suppose the options which have been given here are given in such a way, suppose the 4th one is correct, it's mentioned with everyone, but I'm not sure. Very dangerous, because my entire hard work and effort of last 1 year or 2 years on the line, finished, big problem. I can't take it lightly, but then I can't ignore the static part. Ab dikhata hu, let me show you a mix of how to go about it. See. So first I want to take some examples without wasting your time. First, I'll take this as an example. This is my first example. It is given in your handout. Please open. So please open your handout. You will see one article which says need to build a framework to specifically rate SDLs. So guys, if you don't have it, no problem. You can see here. This is, I'm coming out of the frame. You can have a good look at this. It says need to build. It is from, I think, May 2nd. May 2nd article, huh? 3 days back. So this article says need to build a framework to specifically rate SDL. What is SDL? State development loans. The moment you see this, and as I told you that today I'll be sharing some ideas with you about how to prepare the current affairs notes on your own through self-study. The moment you read this kind of article, these are the questions that you should ask yourself. And I would suggest that you note it down somewhere. Because I have tried this, it works. So for example, the first question that I'll ask myself when I read this article is, what's the context? Why newspaper has published this kind of article? So I need the background. Number 2, what is the meaning of STL? What is STL? Third, I would like to know that in the Constitution of India, has there been a reference made to this instrument called as STL? Or is there any reference made? I'll note it down. If it has not been mentioned in the Constitution, if it's a scheme, it's okay, I'll leave it. I will leave it blank. Then is it connected to sustainable development goals? Then I'll look at it that, okay, a news related to SDL has been given. What are the other applications of STL, which might not have been put in this article? But I would like to find out. Next one is, if the word SDL has been used, I can show you the same set of points using another article. If the word SDL has been used, I would like to know that is there any institution in India or a ministry or a department which looks into SDL? I would like to know that, because UPSC has been asking questions in the exam that which of the following statement is correct about SDL, and then they will mention Reserve Bank of India is responsible to manage SDLs. Then they will mention that Niti Aayog is responsible to give recommendation related to SDL. I say they will mention these kind of statements in the exam. So I would like to know which institution, which ministry. Next point is schemes. Is there any scheme which is connected to this word in India? And last part is interlinkages. Is SDL connected to any other part of the subjects that I'm studying in GS 1, 2, 3, 4? So let me ask you a question. Without you going through the article, we'll go through the article as well. But I want to ask you a few things, online and offline, because all of you would have studied some basics. So can you please tell me, in what context? See, it says need to build a framework to specifically rate SDL. What is SDL? State development loans. What happens through state development loans? Who takes loans through SDL? State government takes loan through SDL. Now, think about it. So, for example, I am a state government, you are the central government, and I'm telling you, please give me loan. What is the first question you will ask? So imagine that you are the mom and dad, and I'm the child who is staying in Delhi. I'm asking you for increased pocket money. How? What for? Reasons, right? Reasons. So I'll tell you that the reason is very pious, very pure reason. I have to spend the money for my own betterment and for the betterment of my friends. And I'll justify it. Come on, who can justify more than children and states? So both can justify. What's the second question? First is justification. I can justify anything being a child. Children are most creative. How much? Okay, that amount also I'll tell you in such a limit that I know that it will be in your capacity to give it to me. I know the capacity of the center, so I'll keep my demands in that. So first question is, where will you use the money? I'm going to use the fund for very specific reasons, for poverty upliftment. I see I made you almost like emotional. Then I told you I don't need much. I just need $100 billion. Not much. What's the third question? Not GDP. Something very simple. Very simple. Imagine that you are the guardian. I'm your child. I'm asking you the question that please give me pocket money again. Brilliant point. Brilliant point. Your friend is saying, oh, wonderful. Your online friend is also said the same thing. What did you do with the previous money? That's the question. And if I tell you that, how does it matter to you? Really, it doesn't matter to the parents? Yeah, it does matter. If I wasted my previous fund, why should you give me funds? Then you should give funds to that person who has not wasted the money. Center has limited cash in the pocket. Center has to give money to various states. One state is saying, well, last time when you gave cash, I don't know, I mean, cash just evaporated. The other state is saying, I created 5 hospitals. Which state would you like to give more funds? Because you have limited fund, you will give fund to that state which has indulged in more capital expenditure. Which means we need a rating system so that we should know that when a state has raised money through SDLs, what have they done with the money? And if we can find out through the rating system that a state has used the money very effectively, quality of expenditure is good. When do you say quality of expenditure good? When your capital expenditure is good. So if I can find out that the quality of expenditure is good, I'll give more money to the state because I know the state will use the money properly, India will progress, and I'll also get the money back. So they are saying need to build a framework to specifically rate SDLs. State development loans are the loans taken by the state government for short term or long term? Short term or long term? Long term. Okay, question for you. Can you please tell me what are the 3 different ways in which the general government in India, what is the meaning of general government, center or state? Both. The moment you use the word general government, that means center and state combined, federal polity, guys. So both the governments, how do they take loans? What are the 3 different ways in which they take money, they take loan from the market? There are 3 different ways of taking loan by general government. Bataiye, what is the first one? I'm talking about loan only, so it has to be borrowing. Based on time, based on duration. Based on duration, short term, medium term, and long term. What is short term? 90, short term, 91 days to 364 days. 91-day treasury bill, 182-day treasury bills, 364 days treasury bills, right? So this is one method. And the second method is? Second method is long term. This was medium. What is long term? You see the static area coming in? I'm going to show you how to, this context we discussed, no, briefly, that we want that the state government should be responsible. That is written here in the article. Just give me some time. Let me explain this funda to you. How to use this framework for any current affairs article. Because normally when I take current affairs classes, I use this framework only. So now look at this. Meaning. What is the meaning? Meaning may we got stuck. Why? Because meaning is a static knowledge. Did you notice that there are some confusions? We don't know where exactly SDL fits. That's your static part. Is there a provision in the constitution? Yes, there is a provision. Is there a sustainable development goal related to it directly? No. Directly, no. Overall for development, yes. Directly, no. Application, it is applicable so that the revenue of the state government should increase so that they can spend the money for both revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. If you give money to the state government will use the money for subsidies also. They will use the money to create hospital also. What is this institution and ministry and department? So Reserve Bank of India actually talks about this SDLs, state development loans. Is there any other institution which talks about it? Ministry of Finance, brilliant. Yes, Ministry of Finance talks about it. Very nice. Constitution, what is the provision? Finance Commission. Finance Commission actually recommends to the center that you have to help the states. So Finance Commission is the constitutional provision. Their Finance Commission gives all the details of how should you help the states. And then you have any scheme which you can think of, which is running in this country, which helps the state government to take loans. Yes, there is a scheme. Current affairs. Retail direct scheme. Have you heard of retail direct scheme? Retail direct scheme by RBI? No? Okay. Absolutely. Retail direct scheme. And this is fiscal policy. Interlinkages with which topic? Fiscal policy. I'll give an example to you that what am I talking about. Ab dekho bachcho, see, look carefully at the board. You'll get something really amazing now. These are the standard points on which I evaluate literally every current affairs article. I'll do the same thing with a polity article after this. So this is economics related article, transfer of resources. This is transfer of resources between center and state. Resource distribution between center and state. It's a part of your UPSC syllabus. So these are the areas, these are the points on which I judge this article. I got some points. Example. Suppose that I'm giving you some MCQ based on this article. So let's see if we can answer some MCQs based on just this. And then you will see some magic. So for example, let's say these are the questions that I'll ask you. This is given in your handout. This question is given in your handout. And if it's not there, if you can't find it, it's there on the board. So let's read it. It says, consider the following statements regarding general government borrowing. So the first thing is general government borrowing, which should catch your attention, which means I'm talking about center and state. Cool. Statement number 1, SDLs are like treasury bills, but issued by state government. Wow. Basis is a current affairs article, but the question is conceptual. So what is the answer to this question? They are like treasury bills, which are issued by the state government. Time duration is different. What is the answer? This side? But they are saying they are like T-bills. So state governments are not able to issue directly the treasury bills, so they have issued something else which is like treasury bills. Is it okay? That's not correct. I'll tell you why. So this is not correct. First of all, they are not like treasury bills. They are exactly opposite. Treasury bills for short time. This is for very long duration. Mostly the SDLs are for 10 years. Mostly. Treasury bills are very short term. They are different. Number 2, institutional investors are allowed to invest in SDLs where retail investors cannot. So people like you and I, we cannot buy SDLs. Earlier we could not, but now we can. Through a scheme by RBI called as Retail Direct Scheme. Retail Direct Scheme. And the first one is the conceptual question that what is SDL? That's the point actually. SDL is a long-term borrowing mechanism, 10 years. And this is your second, which is called as Retail Direct Scheme. Through that, even people like you and I, individuals, you can buy the SDL. So let's go back and let us evaluate. I gave you these points to evaluate any current affairs article. So let's see if those two options of the MCQ can be answered through this. Look at the meaning. If you know the meaning, you can actually answer that question. The second part, Retail Direct Scheme. See, did we mention scheme? Oh, yes. So if you know the scheme, by reading the article, if you know it, if you can identify, two options were created from here. Let's look at the third option. So for example, this is the third option. States with poor fiscal health, like debt to GDP ratio, cannot issue SDLs. So those state governments who have not been very healthy in terms of their debt, their previous condition is not good. They have taken a lot of loan, they are under debt, so they cannot issue further SDLs. Is it the case in India? If that were the case in India, then why would we mention there should be a rating agency about it? That means even if the state government's condition is not good, they have taken so much loan already, but yet this year they are wanting to take loan, and constitutionally we can't stop them. That's the problem. So center said that I am going to create some conditions that I want to see that if you have taken loan in the past where you have not used the money properly and you have not returned the loan, then I'm not going to allow you to take further loans. You need my permission. So state government of Kerala filed a case in Supreme Court, and they said, what about federal polity? Because my requirements might be there. So is it the case that whenever central government is very healthy, then only they take the loans? Even if they are not healthy, they still take the loans. So similarly, state governments might be unhealthy, and because they are unhealthy, so they need money. So now there is a debate, which means since this debate has been asked here, if this debate has been mentioned in the newspaper article, we should know the context, we should know the current case, and we should know how devolution of resources happen between center and state, and who has given power to the center to block such a move by the state that you cannot issue SDLs beyond a limit. Which article of the constitution gives them that power? What is the role of finance commission there? Do you see a lot of scope here in bringing a lot of static part, current part? Aap dekh rahe ho? Very simple thing, very simple article. I created this question directly by borrowing statements from that article. So what is this third? The third one says states with poor fiscal health. No, they can actually. Even if your fiscal health is poor, you can borrow. So all the options are actually wrong. Every option is wrong. So then how do we study such a thing? Let's come back. See this, please. What is the name of the agency, guys? RBI. What have I mentioned? Three things. If the government needs money for less than 91 days, then there is a mechanism through which they can borrow money. It is called as cash management bill, CMB. CMB is the mechanism through which the governments borrow for less than 91 days. Treasury bill is the mechanism through which the governments borrow for 91 to 364 days. If the government wants to borrow for more than 1 year, then they are called as dated securities. It can be issued by both central government, it can be issued by state government. When it is issued by central government, it is called as government bonds. And when it is issued by state government, it is called as state development loans. That's your static part. So when you read the article, I want to show you 2-3 things. There is a reason that I got the articles. I could have told you that open the article, look at the 5 points, make notes, you will be able to do it. Aisa nahi hai, that's wrong. Simply telling you work hard, you will understand current affairs. What's the point of saying all these things? You are already working hard. I don't need to give you that gyan that one should work hard to succeed in life. Ye sab cheezein you know these things. The problem that we have to sort out in this kind of session is when an article comes in front of us, how do we devote minimum amount of time to extract maximum information from the article? So whenever you are presented something, a book or an article or the newspaper, if you have a framework in mind, suppose I have a framework and I know that there is article in front of me, and if I can find out the information from the article and put it in the framework, my job is done. So I'll tell you a combination of things which will be useful for you. So first of all, let's come back here. Yahan pe dekhiye. Come back here, please. Now you understand why you have to write these things. So if in your current affairs notebook, you have written context, meaning, constitution, SDG, application, institution, scheme, and interlinkages, the moment you read the article, you just have to map them. From this article, you put some information. I'll give another example to you. Let's take one polity article. See this article, please. And I suggest that when you go back today after the session, you should read this. So for example, look at this. It says empower panchayats to settle disputes. Right. So it says empower panchayats to settle disputes. And that has been told by the president. Here you can see, if you read the article, that a reference has also been made of the CJI. He has also contributed in this idea. So there was this nice conference which was happening. And in that conference, they were discussing this idea that how do we give power to panchayat? How do we utilize the panchayat institutions so that the arbitration mechanism can start right at grassroots level, so that petty things like he took water from my pond, he stole my cattle, these kind of things should not be taken to district court, high court, or Supreme Court. Imagine Supreme Court listening to this, my cattle got stolen. So Supreme Court says, yes, this is also very important that your cattle got stolen. For you, cattle could be the only property that you have. But Supreme Court says if it becomes a regular phenomenon at the grassroots level, community should come together and they should find out who is doing all these things. So don't you feel that for an IAS officer, this type of news is very important? Because in future, you are going to implement these kind of schemes and maybe design something new. So dekhte hain how to handle this. Let's see. So see, the moment I read this article, what I found is, and I'll tell you the method which you should adopt. The moment you read an article, read it very fast. Don't read it slow. The first reading that you give, read it fast, and please try to find out which are the words of interest. And the words of interest are different for people who are at different stages of preparation. So suppose that you are in the initial stage of preparation, every word will look very unique to you. But as you mature in preparation, you will realize that the words which look unique to you, they start to come down. And I believe looking at you, because most of you I know, online and offline. So I know that you are acquainted with basic ideas of polity. You understand governance a little bit. So that's why you will also find important what I have found. So for example, according to me, these are the words of interest. The first is Mediation Act 2023, which is very recent. Then there is a section in the Mediation Act, section 43 of Mediation Act 2023, which talks about community mediation, which means give power to Panchayati Raj institutions. And the next one is Mediation Association of India. There was a conference of this only, where CGI president, everybody went. And then Panchayat, the pillar of social harmony. Who said this? The president. And it's a ready-made topic for GS paper 2 and essay. So that's why I took this pillar of social harmony. Why are they calling it as pillar of social harmony? Because they are saying that if you use section 43 of Mediation Act 2023, it says use panchayats to maintain social cohesion, peace and tranquility at the grassroots level. People should be non-violent. They should not fight. So who says that give power to panchayat? Section 43, which will make the panchayat a pillar of social harmony. So if I have to create a question, how will I convert them into a question from this article? So let's read it. And let's see where is current affairs, where is static part. So when I read that article, I will create this question, which is consider the following statements regarding Mediation Act 2023. There is one typing error. This statement is the third statement. Let's read it. The first statement is, so we are talking about Mediation Act 2023. It says it provides for community mediation for disputes likely to affect peace and tranquility in the locality. So is this the correct statement? This is current affairs. Because this is a new act, you should know the provision. It says, consider the following regarding mediation. It provides for community mediation for disputes likely to affect peace and tranquility. Yes. So if at grassroots level we feel that some event can destroy the peace and people are fighting, we can involve panchayats and tell them, please act as a mediator and solve the issue at grassroots level so that they do not need to take it to courts, because it will be burden on the courts and wastage of time. So the first option is the right option. The second option, it also gives the courts and tribunals the authority to refer parties to mediation at any stage of the proceedings, even if pre-litigation mediation was unsuccessful. So guys, imagine that you and I are fighting and we decided to appoint a mediator. Mediation is going on mutually, but we could not arrive to any consensus. And suppose that there is a provision in this act which says that you can take this kind of cases to court. We file a case in the court. And the judges, when they look at it, they realize that no, we can actually go back to the mediation stage, and judges have the power that they can actually appoint a mediator again, and they can say that no, perhaps you guys did not put in a lot of efforts, go and solve it mutually. So do they have that power? Yes, they have kept that power, which means even if your mediation has not worked in the first stage and you have decided to move into the courts, from there also it has given power to the judges that they can send you back to mediation stage. Normally it is not the case. Normally when you file a case in the court, if mediation has failed, they would take up the case. But in this case, they are saying we can send you back because we feel that it's not something which is very serious or threaten the existence of the country. It is very basic in nature. You can sort it out. So yes, there is a special provision here, which is this provision. And the third one says it also allows for interim orders to protect parties' interest during mediation. So court can pass an interim order and say that mediators, you have to be careful till the time the case is settled between two parties. You should not direct them to do anything which harms their interest. You have to be neutral. So third one is also the provision. What do you find here? Is this current affairs? Absolute current affairs. All the provisions that you find here is derived from Mediation Act 2023. Which means if somebody asks you that what is current affairs for UPSC, Current affairs is anything which has happened in last 2 years. How do we prepare current affairs for UPSC? We use 1 year as reference, but our mind should be at least running in 2 years direction to find out, was there any event of national importance, international importance, which actually happened, which has a repercussion 2 years down the line. If something happened in 2022, 23, I know that the repercussions are going to happen even today. That's current affairs. So what is the boundary of current affairs? It's a very frequent question, that for how many months or how many years should we prepare the current affairs? Ideally, 1.5 years. We should prepare the current affairs, not 1 year, 1.5 years. But the reference should be taken from last 2 years, 2.5 years. Where will you find all these things? That also I'll tell you, that from where to get those references. It is available. So this was one example, guys. Another example where I just took one article, I mapped it into important areas, I converted into a question. And I don't think that directly any other question is possible from this article. Now the bigger question is how to make notes out of it. ये कैसे बनाएंगे? How do we make notes out of it? ये देखो, this is how you make notes out of it. Listen to it carefully, guys. First, what you need to do is, you need to have, I told you that in today's session, I'll talk about self-study. So I know that many people criticize this idea of, preparing current affairs note and studying current affairs. But if you are planning for self-study, I think this is the best way, one of the best ways. There could be other ways also, but one of the best ways is you need to have at least 4 different copies. The reason being that that's the duration which we are looking for. Abhi directly coming back to you guys. So we are looking at May, it is given in the last page of your handout, May 2025 to May 2026. May 2026 is your exam. This is the duration that you have. So I'm going to tell you how I will prepare current affairs for 2026 as a faculty, because if I don't know what current affairs is, or if I don't prepare well, I won't be able to help my students as well. So your and my style of preparation is almost same. So let me tell you how I'm going to prepare for the current affairs. This is May. For the next exam cycle, I'll start right away. I showed you 2 examples for which I already prepared notes for myself. So I gave you an example that how those arbitration can be used as a question. I gave you one SDL example. So what I'll do is, from here, I will start to prepare notes 2025, then June, July, August, September, October, November, December. I'll make notes till January. The moment February comes, you understand that in February, new budget and economic survey will come. And when the new budget and survey hits the market, entire newspaper is filled with that news which is out of budget and survey. So literally, I don't need to make 2 notes. One, budget and economic survey, and one is newspaper. I don't need to make 2 separate notes. If I'm making notes out of economic survey and budget, actually I'm making notes out of newspaper only. Or if I'm making notes out of newspaper, budget and survey is already covered. So which means if somebody tells you that you have to make a separate notes of budget and survey, no, entire newspaper is filled with budget and survey only in February. So February is going to be a slightly engaging month for you. There, the efforts that will be required from your side will be almost double. So if you are studying for 5 hours a day, you might have to study 7 hours a day, because you have to complete that entire survey and budget in 1 month. You cannot take it to March. Ideally, you should not. So February is the time when you should stop your all other newspaper activities and focus only on survey and budget. That's one special thing. Now, March is a special month. Why? This is the last month where you will make notes. From April, you should stop note making. If you are jotting down some points also from newspaper, some important points, etc., you should stop it from the month of April, mid-April. The reason being that in May, you will have an exam next year, somewhere around the last week. So May, you should not make notes because paper is already made. Mid of April, you should stop making the notes. Even if you don't study newspaper after mid of April, there is no problem. So literally from mid of April last year, you can stop your newspaper reading completely. If you want to, save little more time, then I can tell you, based on the experience of reading newspaper, etc., that from April first week also, you can somewhere leave the newspaper. But if you take it till 10th April, 15th April, that should be good. So mid of April, you leave everything. Ab dekho, if I were you, what kind of timeline would I follow? First of all, from May to January, I'll tell you what to do. I'll make some notes. I'll prepare from some magazine. I'll give you all the sources today. From February, I'll only do economic survey and budget, nothing else. And February, I'll put a full stop. In March, whatever current affairs I have done from here to here, whatever current affairs I have done, So which means that I'll have a huge amount of current affairs with me, 500 pages. I'll divide it into two parts because I need to revise. So in the month of March, if I have a 500-page notebook full of current affairs, I'll take 250 pages, I'll revise them. And parallelly, I'll prepare the current affairs of March. But entire last 9-10 months of newspaper which I have read, some notes I have created, I'll divide it in two parts. 250 pages, for example, I'll study them in March, I'll revise them. And then in the month of April, the remaining 250 pages. Why do you need to revise them? Because if you can't revise something for UPSC, then you should not have made it. The rule of UPSC is very simple. Anything which you cannot revise before the exam at least twice, you should not make those kind of notes. Because that notes is only good to be put on the table. That is not good to be put in the mind. So anything which you feel is looking very bulky to me, you should stop right away because you know that you cannot revise it twice. So I'll tell you the art of note making also. I've got some examples today. So whatever notes you make now, you should make it till the month of January, February and March budget and survey, February budget and survey, and March, whatever in last 9 months, the notes that you have made, divide it in two parts, revise it in March and April, 50-50. This should be your first, sort of reaction to current affairs. So this is your month, which will help you to reproduce current affairs in the exam. And most of your test series will happen here. So if you can literally revise the things and reproduce in the test series, nothing like that. Let's come to self-study part of it. How to make notes. Here, okay, see that, guys. So my way of doing current affairs is like this. I take 4 notebooks, GS 1, 2, 3, 4. I take one book, one small diary, which is called fact book. I'll give you some entries also. So whenever I read a newspaper, what I'll do is I know that every news article can be divided into these 4. So for example, I am reading an article related to, let's say, grassroots level arbitration. I'll put it in GS paper 2. What will I do here? If I've already made my notes, I'll show you how to make notes also. So suppose I make notes related to arbitration here. Then what will I do here? What is this fact book example? So fact book would be something like this. So I'm reading this article which says empower panchayats to settle disputes. I'm reading it from UPSC perspective. I open my fact book. So for example, I have taken a fact book. I devote 10 pages to polity, 10 to economy, 10 to agriculture, something like 10 to IR. So I open the polity section and I just write Mediation Act 2023, Section 43, Community Mediation. And here I'll mention Panchayat. Actually, this is what Shakti was talking about, that this kind of converting the big data and fact into something very simple, easy on the mind. The moment you open it before your prelims, it will help you to recall the entire discussion. It will also help you to write very good answer in your mains. It will help to add value in your mains answer. But if you make it too bulky in the fact book, like start writing explanation after explanation, it becomes notes. But we don't have to do that, because at the end, when I don't have time and I have to refer to things very fast, I just need a 100-page fact book like this, where I'll mention polity exactly like this. And how do I mention economics? See, Article 293, Section 3. What does it say? It says mandatory borrowing consent of central government. So there is a provision in the Constitution which says, unless the central government gives a nod, the state government cannot borrow through state development loans, whether your past behavior has been good or past behavior has been bad. So Kerala government is telling the center that my past behavior should not define what I need today, because in the past there might be some epidemic, there might be some natural disaster which would have happened, then you'll penalize me. So they are fighting in the Supreme Court by saying that remove this part from the Constitution, because it gives power to the center which can interfere and tell the state when to borrow, when not to borrow. So what will I do? If I'm preparing for UPSC, I'll just write it down. It will help me to answer question in the prelims. It will also help me to enrich my answer in the mains in GS paper 3. This is fact book. So what is so special about fact books? The special thing about fact book is everything that came in the news in last 1 year, I'll mention it without writing too many words. You cannot make it more minimum than this. This art you have to learn. Similarly, when I flip the pages related to agriculture, what will I do? If I read some data related to agriculture or a fact or a new scheme, I'll just mention the name of the scheme and I'll just mention few words about the scheme, then I'll turn the page. So everything that became important in that year related to agriculture will be summarized in 10 pages. Everything in polity and governance, 5 pages, 15 pages, 20 pages. This book I'm going to carry everywhere. Now, you heard the rank one say that some data is important because you have to quote it in the exam. Even if she did not say this, you know it. That's basic common sense. Question is coming on poverty. How can you now not write what is the level of poverty in India? If the question is coming on litigation and the pending cases in the judiciary, how can you not write that? What are the number of cases that is pending in the appeal stage in the judiciary? You will have to write that burden. If land record related question is asked in UPSC, that is the government of India maintaining proper land records so that land procurement becomes easy, etc. You need to tell how many states of India have implemented the land record digitization, how many have not yet done it. I need facts. Without fact, my answer will look very generic and useless. An examiner will not give me marks. So where to get the facts from? This is the secret weapon. Because here we don't burden it. What do we do in this kind of fact book? We just simply write basic words. We keep it in hand and we keep moving. Right? So that's one example. Next, let's come back to this. So as I was telling you that you need two things if you are doing self-study. And guys, let me tell you very honestly, I do carry this all the time for myself. And that is the place which I use for a lot of revision because it keeps me updated all the time. So I think if you can do it, it will really help you. So this is the kind of notes that I want you to have, for example. So let's say this is GS paper 1, GS paper 2, GS paper 3, GS paper 4. And this is your diary. These are the two things. Up suppose, see what I have observed by talking to a lot of you in your UPSC journey. In the month of May, June, July, you will see that when you are in the initial stages of your preparation, you spend roughly, I know it, because you guys only tell me about it. So roughly 2.5 hours to 3 hours in the very initial stage of your preparation, you normally put in newspapers. This is a fact. When in the initial stage you start to prepare for the exam, it is not less than 2.5 hours. You know it, I know it. And then if you start to make notes, add 1 more hour to it. Suppose someday the newspaper is heavy, it becomes 3 hours. It's light, it becomes 2.5 hours. So it becomes roughly 3.5 to 4 hours. These are the months when you start your preparation cycle. This is what you suffer from. So can you believe it? You have a 9-hour study schedule, and in that roughly 3.5 to 4 hours, half of the time gone. Now what will happen is you have devoted 50% of your time in area from where 30% question will be asked. What about the static part? You will become so weak in static part in these 3 months that you will feel like giving up here. Because eventually, slowly over a period of time, your static areas will become extremely weak. In those areas also where you are good, you will start to lose the edge. This is very dangerous. Over a period of time, what will happen is with experience and reading the newspaper, getting good static areas, you might reach this stage, which even Shakti told about today. And you guys agreed, you said, yes, we spend 1.5 hours. But then you spend 1 hour in making notes, which means consistently you need, on some days you're not in very good mood. Some days your morning was very heavy because you studied too much of GS, right? It might happen. You appeared in a test. Then this 1 hour of note making might convert into 1.5 hours. So then 1.5, 1.5, 3 hours gone in newspaper, and your study schedule is 9 hours at the best. The reason being you have to do other things also. In UPSC, not only opening books, but traveling for classes, sometimes accommodation issues, managing your food, etc., getting those emotional phone calls. Everything matters in UPSC, right? So those 9 hours that you are putting in the study, this is the best you can put normally. Usme se 3 hours in newspaper, 1/3 of the time in newspaper. And after doing a lot of newspaper for 3 hours, do you have the energy to do anything else? Be honest to yourself. Newspaper is so exhaustive. It's like a magnet. It takes the best part of your brain, and after that leaves you almost like useless. You can't study anything with a lot of focus after doing newspaper. So फिर what is the jugaad? The jugaad is again jugaad for self-study. The jugaad is this thing, this idea. अब देखो, this is something which I used in the last year's prelims cum mains batch for current affairs, which helped the students to write some good answers in the exam. So I thought I'll bring some sample in front of you. अब देखो how to prepare for the exam, the current affairs notes, etc. Just to summarize everything. Suppose that I'm preparing startups, and I know there was a recent debate related to startup where the minister said that the startups of India are not that good. They are not contributing a lot. How do I convert it into notes for UPSC prelims and mains? Very careful. So what I'll do is, first of all, if I were you, I'll Google and I'll find out, or through newspaper, if I'm doing for entire 1 year or 10 months, I'll collect the name of all the schemes, and these are the schemes. This is the list of all the schemes related to study. You can easily find it. As Shakti was also asking about Chat GPT, I heard she asked a question. And you guys, some of you answered that, yes, we do use it. I'm a firm believer in technology. I believe that if some technology is there in the current age, one should use it productively. Why not? I mean, you should know how to use it. So because you are blessed to be in the era of technology, you just should know how to use. So if I have to use Chat GPT or any other technology to find out what are the schemes related to startups, I'll make a list like this. Ab dekho, how will I use the list for prelims and mains? Example. So what I'll do is I'll write it like this: SIDBI's Fund of Fund scheme. When did the government release it? 2025 budget. It talks about it. So I'll just write this and see how much fund the government has allocated for this 10,000 crore for startups. Second scheme is Startup India Seed Fund scheme, 945 crore seed fund and incubation. What do you notice here? What are we doing? Are we writing literature and grammar? Are we beautifying it? No. What is the advantage of this kind of notes? This is note making. The advantage of this kind of notes is, once you have a list of schemes, if UPSC asks me a question, critically evaluate some of the important schemes launched by Government of India for startups. I'll write all the schemes. And I'll convert these two words into a full-fledged statement. And I already have 7 points ready. With introduction and conclusion, I can write a very good answer using this. But if I'm preparing for prelims, even then this is the scheme list for me. Why? Because I know this is the crores and this is for startups. For example, these are the crores and this is the use of the fund. But then I told you that for prelims, the question they will ask you will go much beyond. In fact, prelims is much tougher in the sense, मैं दिखाता हूं आपको. Let me show you. Here. When I prepare the same thing, that was for mains. When I prepare the same thing for prelims, I'll ask myself context. And then I'll know, okay, context is India does not follow Lewis model, which means we have skipped manufacturing. We have skipped businesses. We just moved to services. So India is trying to bring it back. And number two, India suffers from huge amount of unemployment, youth unemployment. So government is trying to bring self-employment to this country. That is why the startup schemes are being promoted. That's the context. See, I'll judge the whole startup using this structure. And second is meaning. What is the meaning of startup? Okay. In the budget 2025, recently, what has happened? The definition of startup has changed. Now the government of India is saying that any company which registered from 2016 onwards is called startup. A company which registered before 2016 will not be called as startup. Definition changed. So, new definition. Is it mentioned in the Constitution? In the Constitution, DPSP says that the government has to provide equal opportunity to every section of the society. And they have to reduce the disparity in the distribution of income, wealth, and opportunities. That is why the government of India has to make sure that people get productive employment so that income inequality in India can reduce. If I am employed either through startup or through businesses, my income will increase, inequality in the country will come down. So yes, good governance is mentioned in DPSP. So this is one of the things. Sustainable development goals, yes, increase income and reduce poverty. And this startup kind of thing, it has also been launched for women. It has been launched for tribal areas. Of course, it is related to sustainable development goals. And then you have application of startups. Startups is meant for both manufacturing and services. That's application. The next point is institution or ministry, DPIIT, Ministry of Commerce and Industries. The next one is scheme. We already prepared the scheme. And then interlinkages, yes, with industries. So if I can look at all these points, the moment I read a particular topic and try to fill these gaps, that okay, I am studying startup, let me fill all this. I can vouch for it in 99% of the cases. Another question which is not mentioned here is not possible. So how many points are we covering? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Roughly 8 or 9 points you can cover all the articles. 99% of the cases, this will be your structure for prelims and mains. Abhi karke dekhte hain. Let's see one more. So this is what you do for a startup. Okay? Startup is very easy. So what did you notice? You prepare notes like this, but then whenever an article comes in the newspaper related to a startup, you take those 9 points and you fill those 9 points. And the moment you fill it, your notes are ready. So anybody who tells you that please don't make bulky notes, I believe should also be telling you that if I don't make bulky notes, then how should I make notes? If I'm doing self-study, what should I do? So that answer is take those 9 points, write it into your notebook, read one article, fill those points, move on. Because they will ask you this question, for example, at which ministry, which department gives the certificate of startup? There comes your ministry part. So this is how you cover these points. Let me show you one more. Here, okay. So for example, this is the handout which we used last year for the last year students who were in prelims and mains who were writing the exam. So from my course, I use this handout. So I'm going to show some glimpse to you that if you want to make notes on your own, you should follow this method. It will help. Dikhata hu main aapko. Let me show you how you make notes out of. Dekhiye, this is one standard format which I use to make notes. Example. And I suggest that from this session, you should take away this very important point. So when I have to make notes on, let's say, I read an article on food processing industry, I have to consolidate everything. In the first 3 months of my preparation, I have no idea about consolidation because who will teach me this? I have to learn it through my own efforts. It cannot be taught, it has to be learned. So first 3 months, my preparation will be left, right, center, here, there. I'll write anything, useless things. After 3 months, I learned that, okay, I don't need to write this point. I need to write this point. I need to skip this. I need to write this. So in the first 3-4 months, you will be here, there won't be a structure. But after 3 months, this should be your structure. Dekho, this is the funda which I follow. Whenever I'm given a theme like food processing industry, I'll create a box like this. Everything which is related to fact or report, I'll write it in a box. This box straight away goes in my fact book. That small fact book that I talked about, this set of fact goes there. Example, it says Indian food and grocery market is the 6th largest in the world. But people buy so much of food in India because population is huge. And in countries which are developing, we spend more money on food. So India's food market is 6th largest in the world. I have this in mind now, which means there is no problem of consumer. So if somebody opens a food processing industry in my country, they are bound to make profits. Number 2 is India's food processing industry is 32% of India's food market. So if people are buying food every day, 32 or 1/3 of the people, what they are buying is processed food. Raw food is hardly 70%. 30% people are buying processed food with a huge demand. And why do people buy processed food? Life has become fast. Nuclear families, right? No time to cook. India's food processing industry is 5th in the world, 5th best in the world in terms of this. What is the share of food processing in manufacturing, agriculture, etc.? All these things you can see. So what have I done? I have created a list. This list directly goes in my fact book and it's there forever. Ask me this question in interview, I can give very confident answer. Ask me a question in mains, I'll give you answer from here. I'll quote something from here. In prelims, I'll quote something from here. In prelims, if they ask me the factual question, I have the answer. But I don't stop because I have to qualify both prelims and mains. Then I come here. And how do I make notes for the mains part? What is the scope of food processing industry in India? Why India should have a food processing industry or why India could have a successful industry? I'll just write these points. This is called note making. Why? Because if you start to write big literature on this, every month it will change. And your notes will, from 500 pages, it will become 1000 pages or 1500 pages. When are we going to revise? Which means if you are thinking of making notes on your own because you want to go for self-study, I encourage self-study. I feel that's the best thing for current affairs because you have attended your GS classes, you have the base. So if you want to go for self-study in current affairs, this should be the type of notes that you should make. Why? Because if UPSC directly asks you a question, seedha utha ke, you can take this diagram and put it in your answer. Next is this. See, how do we conduct the sessions here? And this is what I want that on your own also, if you can do it, that would be great. So I brought a sample. So देखो, what we do is significance of food processing industry. देखो मजेदार चीज, something which will reduce your burden. If I have written these points from static knowledge, that what is the significance of food processing industry? It says it reduces the loss, it improves farmers' income, and food processing industry contributes in economic growth. I know it, but I have kept it as a blank. Why? Every year, the contribution of food processing in economic growth will change. So what I'll do is I have created a framework. This framework will be there in my current affairs notes, GS paper 3. Every year when I get budget and survey or newspaper, from there I'll fill this data. This structure will never change. So whether I'm preparing for prelims, I'll read this point. I'm preparing for mains, I'll read this point. I'm appearing in interview, I'll read this point. My job is done. But if you make notes on food processing industry 5 times in 1 year, useless. So what should you do? If you are making notes like this, you should also write, for example, like this point, create a circle. Whenever the data changes, so for example, currently, let's say it's 2%, right? 2%. It changes, cross it, right? 3%. You don't need to make another data. But this framework that you see is static. So how to use current affairs? You need to have a static framework where current affairs should be placed at the right places. This art has to be learned. अगर आप ये नहीं सीखोगे ना, where to put the current affairs, फिर you will not know what to do with it. So this is another example. The third example is this. ये देखिए. See, I have done it for agriculture also. That's an example. Let's read it. This is straight out of my fact book. So in my fact book, I have created this for agriculture. See, let's read it. देखते हैं if it's useful for us or not. Let's see. So for example, the first says India's arable land is 154.5 million hectares only next to US. So I know that, okay, US number 1, India number 2. That's it, done. Oh, cool, done. I know it now. So if they ask me a question in UPSC related to the prospects of agriculture in India or food security, I will say we have the second largest arable land in the world. So if you want food security, we already have it because we have land. Second, share of agriculture export in agriculture trade, world trade. This question has been asked in UPSC. Already asked in UPSC twice, prelims. Can you believe it? This point was asked. So you know what I do? I have created this structure in my fact book. Every year, I just change these numbers. Done. Do I need to create it every year? Why? I'm not a fool. Why will I write it every year? So what do I need to do in current affairs? I'm telling you, this is how you should do. So create things like this, fact book. Let's look at this point. Top agricultural items exported out of India. This list will change every year. And you know this question has been asked in UPSC. So you cannot show me even a single question from agriculture which is not from here. Not because I made it. If you make it also, you'll get questions in the exam. Because there is no point which is available, which is beyond this. Hey, possible, it's not possible. Every point is there. This is about farmers' debt. How many farmers in India are in debt? This is the last point. What will they ask? What is the top export of India? What is the top import of India? To which countries are we exporting? From which countries are we importing? That is what they will ask us. Similarly, you have to make this kind of table for animal husbandry. And you are done. So are you understanding how to make current affairs notes? Current affairs notes are of two types. One, proper notes, which you write in your GS 1, 2, 3, 4 notebook. And the second is these facts. These factual things, actually, if you are in the initial stages, so you should make one, you should keep one diary that is called as fact book. And wherever you find one fact in minimum literature, you should note it down. And you will see that at the end of 3-4 months, you will have enough of material which you can consolidate like this. So what I do is whenever my fact book is filled with data related to agriculture or some scheme related to agriculture, after 3-4 months, I sit with my laptop, open a Word doc. I consolidate each of the sections like agriculture, and then I create something like this. And then I take a printout. And if I read in the newspaper, and then I paste it in my fact book by taking a small size. And when I see some data has changed, then I just cross this and put the new data and done. Imagine if I'm looking at this for next 10 months, what will happen? It will go in my permanent memory. And I will not make mistakes. But if I do this 1 month before the exam, can I be able to use it? I mean, not in this lifetime. This work has to start from today. So I strongly suggest that you should start doing this. And if somebody else does it for you, it won't help you. If you do it for yourself, trust me, nothing better than that. So, so this I believe that you should use. This was an example. Do I have another example for this? Look at this. This is a scheme which I have created. For example, Operation Green. You must have heard about Operation Green. Can we convert Operation Green from newspaper? This is from newspaper. Can I convert it into notes for myself? This is how you create it. Operation Green provides solution to farmers. The solution is of two types, short term, long term. You will not find proper literature in any of this. Which means if I keep looking at this for next 6 months, it will go in my mind forever. Even if I try to forget about it, I won't be able to. Because I did not write unnecessary literature. Now imagine to make my current affairs notebook in a decorated manner, to make it look flashy, and fashionable, you with 20 colors. I start writing literature, short-term measures. Then I explain each of these using 5 sentences. Where is the end? So I counted my number of pages last year. GS 1, 2, 3, 4 notebook which I made, and I don't make online notes. I make conventional, old school. I write using pen and paper. So I made GS 1, 2, 3, 4 notes. The average came out to be somewhere around 80 to 90 pages. In 80 to 90 pages, I could make, in a small font size, of course, A4 size, 80 to 90 pages, 100 pages max, because I bought the 100-page notebook only. So in 100 pages, I tried to make notes like this. GS 1, 2, 3, I could complete. 4, I did not need to, because that's not current affairs. Why will I? But if I find some theme or case which might be useful for GS paper 4, I'll write it. But frankly speaking, I don't do it, but you can, because you have to appear in the exam. So I'll make 3 notebooks, GS 1, 2, 3. Then I make 1 fact book. My GS 3 notebooks look something like this. My fact book looks something like this. So this you have to do for your polity also. I'll give an example. In GS paper 2, you have a section which talks about government schemes and social welfare, workers' welfare, women empowerment. Hai na? So if I have to make notes on, let's say, social welfare or welfare of workers, how will I start the notes? Main batata hu, what will I do? I read an article related to labor reform, which means either it will be asked in GS 3 or 2. If it is asked in GS paper 2, the moment I read labor reforms, what will I do? I'll open my polity book. I'll open my fact book. In my fact book, I'll note down all the articles which talks about empowerment of workers. And I'll write 1-line explanation. Why? So that if I get a question in the mains, because next I'll come to answer writing. Because in the mains, when I do answer writing, if they ask me a question that explain labor reforms, I should not start my answer by saying labor reforms started in India from this year. No. I'll start by saying, according to this article of the Constitution, the labor is this subject. Why? Either it is in the union list, it is the state list or concurrent list, and then I will write, these are the articles which talks about labor empowerment. Keeping in line with these articles, government has created labor reforms. This will be my answer in GS paper 2. Same question asked in GS paper 3, I will write that Indian workers are mostly in the unorganized sector, which makes them vulnerable, hence labor reform is required. So my answer will change according to the subject, but I need a fact book. Without fact book, I won't be able to recall in time. So one thing which I got to know from Shakti and other students this year, when we did this concept of fact book, even I didn't know that this will help a lot in the exam, etc. But the thing which she told me, I'll be very candid, and some other students also told me the same thing. They said knowledge was not a problem, because in 4-5 years you literally study everything. The only thing that these kind of fact books does to you is it helps you to recall things on time. And one thing which perhaps she missed out, but she told me when I was having a discussion with her, that this year she experienced one unique problem in the exam. She said that the questions were more analytical. So the brainstorming time that she told that she had to devote for every question in GS paper 2 and 3 was higher. So she said till last year, this is her experience. So she was saying till last year when she used to get a question, she said in 1 minute I could brainstorm. And I used to easily get 7 minutes to write the answer. But this year she said that the time that she was getting to write the actual answer was 5 to 5.5 minutes. So she said that was very different. She said there were many questions where I had to think out of box that, okay, what do I write? So she said mains could be 2 ways. Either you will know exactly what to write, so saves time. But if you don't know, then brainstorm had to be done. And in brainstorming, these things helps. So that is where I suggest that you should have it. Take an example leta hu. I'll give one more example. Ye dekhiye, see this. Can you believe that this is the entire MSP of India? This is the entire story of agriculture in India. Everything related to agriculture is here, including food subsidy and everything. That's it. You ask me any question related to MSP and food subsidy, I'll show you the answer written here. So for example, why National Food Security Act gives food to 82 crore individuals? Where is the answer? Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, 75% of rural India, 50% of urban, 82 crore people, National Food Security Act. In which stage of this diagram does the government provide food grains to people? Here, fair price shop. How does the procurement happen? Here. Why are the farmers not very happy with the government? Because Swaminathan recommendations are not being followed. What does Swaminathan say? Swaminathan says 1.5 into C2, which means this. And what are we following in India? We are following A2 plus FL. If you ask me any question related to MSP, related to procurement, storage, transportation, the answer is hidden here. Can I tell you a trick here? UPSC has asked so many questions related to food subsidy. One diagram, entire current affairs is hidden here. Where is food subsidy? Food subsidy is of two types. One, the subsidy which farmers get. Two, the subsidy which consumers get. So this is the subsidy which is the farmers part, which is the food subsidy ka first element. This is the subsidy which people get, food subsidy 2. So total food subsidy of India is equal to F1 plus F2. If you note down all these components, F1, and you note down all the components F2, your total food subsidy can be calculated in India. Simple. And this is not economics, this is pure agriculture. There's no economics here, it's pure agriculture. So if you are making structures, and where did I make this? I made this in GS paper 3. Why did I make this? Because the moment I get a data from the government, that government is thinking of changing 22 plus 1 crop. Government wants to make it 25. I just need to make the current affairs change. That's it. If I read in this year's budget that India's food subsidy this year is 30,000 crore, what will I do? I'll write a formula essay and I'll write 30,000 crores, which is 6% of India's GDP. Done. Current affairs added. In this framework, everything added. And why did I keep it blank in my notes? Here, dekho, this is my notes. So this is my agriculture, this is my notes. So whenever some current affairs things will happen, I'll write it here. And my whole MSP and agriculture is complete. So, you know, what is the thing that you should take from this kind of session? From this kind of session, the takeaways are, number one, you should have a list of this. That's the first takeaway. This is non-negotiable. It helps. Takeaway number two, before you get into current affairs, I strongly suggest you that you should read some core areas. I'll give you a list of some core areas today where current affairs is heavily applied. I have given it in the handout itself. So I want you to read it. Let's do it together. Otherwise, up structure. How will you make the structure which I have done? वो नहीं कर पाओगे आप. You won't be able to do it. So see, this is GS paper 1. These are the areas where I feel that you should do one reading from your class notes before you venture into current affairs. All the highlighted parts. So if you open your handout, which page? If you can tell me. Page number? Page number 2, guys. In page number 2, you can see that I have given here GS paper 1. In GS paper 1, these are the highlighted parts. Highlight kara? Why did I highlight this? Because before you get into smart current affairs preparation on your own, I strongly suggest that you do some basic reading of these things, because these are the areas where current affairs will be applicable. So, for example, here dekho, GS paper 1, there is a section called society which says population and issues related to it. You understand demographic dividend, you know, silver dividend, all these are a part of it. Then you have poverty and development related issues, urbanization, problem and its solution, globalization and its effect on Indian society. You understand that when you talk about globalization, it's not only economics, but globalization of culture also, globalization of ideas, family structure. So many things change. So I want that if you do a basic reading of this from your class notes or any other source, the static reading, and then if you are entering into current affairs area, the moment you read a news, you will immediately be able to connect with this. And the kind of diagrammatic notes which I have started to make, you can easily do it. But uske liye there is one condition, that from GS paper 1, you should read these highlighted parts. And then you should get into current affairs. Ab dekho dusra, second part, it says factors responsible for the location of primary, secondary and tertiary sector industries in various parts of India. Why do you think semiconductor plant has been opened in Assam recently? 2 semiconductor plants in Gujarat, 1 in Assam. In fact, 3 in Gujarat and 1 in Assam. Why Assam? So location plus the workers. And before opening the semiconductor plant, skill training institute was opened, which means skilled workers are available. Investment from state government also happened. State government is also giving subsidized electricity, which means if you read some current affairs event and if you already know location of industries, when you make the notes, you will know that acha, location of industries depends on 4 factors. All the 4 factors satisfied by Assam. Your notes are done. So I suggest that you go through this. This is the highlighted area where current affairs in exam, the examiner would expect that if they ask you question from here, they would like to see current affairs in the introduction or as an example. And if you do not write current affairs in these highlighted areas, you will not get marks. So this is one part. Second, GS paper 2 here. GS paper 2 is full of current affairs. So in GS paper 2, what I have done is I have tried to find out the minimum area where you definitely have to do current affairs value addition. So first is Parliament, state legislature, structure, functioning, conduct of business, powers, privileges, and issues arising out of these. So you read a lot of current events. You understand that different layers of the government, sometimes they fight with each other. Like I told you, Kerala government has filed a case in the Supreme Court against the center that why will you discipline me? I know my discipline. So these are the kind of issues that you have to discuss here. So you have to bring some current examples and case studies. So this is where in GS paper 2, current affairs is required. You please turn the page. Let's talk more about GS paper 2. GS paper 2. See, it says the development sector and its process, role of self-help group. Guys, show me one UPSC question, GS paper 2, where self-help group has not been asked. Literally every year they will ask you self-help groups. So if I were to make notes on self-help group, don't you think that the kind of notes I showed you, the structure, I'll make a structure and whatever current events or current changes happens, I'll just add it. So you need to know the basic structure of what is self-help group, how many members are needed to open self-help group in India. So for example, if you open a self-help group in let's say a typical area like Delhi, you need to have 10 to 20 members. But if you open a self-help group in tribal areas, 5 to 10 members can also open a self-help group. These are the criteria. In the self-help group, there must be some percentage, basic percentage of people below the poverty line. So there is a restriction. And in every self-help group, there must be women representation. That is also the new rule. So, and self-help groups automatically become eligible to take bank loans. So when I prepare self-help group, I'll prepare a list of points. And then if I come across any development, like Abhi, the development which I told you, that there is a criteria that you need to perform well as a self-help group to take bank loans. You become eligible, but bank will not give you loan if you are not operating since last 6 months. This is the new criteria. If you are operating as a self-help group since last 6 months, then you become eligible for the bank loan. So if I make notes from here related to self-help group, the new criteria is 6 months operation, which makes me eligible for loan. I'll just add it. Simple. So you should study this, the static area, but these are the static areas where examiner expects current affairs. So look at this part, social justice. Entire social justice looks static, but is highly current in nature. If you give example from new examples, case studies, some data, some government schemes, your answer becomes all of a sudden, it stands out, it blossoms. So that's why you have to add current affairs here. In governance part, see, what is the basic minimum where you have to put some, current affairs, government policies, interventions aimed at developing various sectors and issues arising out of design and implementation. Yeah, they grow up this point. What was the question asked in UPSC from here in GS paper 2? They asked a question that when the government implements any scheme which is meant for vulnerable section of the society, the government discriminates against the other set of people who are not covered under the scheme. Justify. So UPSC was telling that if government makes a program for somebody in a targeted manner, then it's like discriminating against the other. And 1 year back, the UPSC had asked a question in GS paper 2 that if government includes everybody in the scheme, not in a targeted manner, but like universal scheme, then it's wastage of resources. So in 1 year, they asked you that if you give benefit of scheme to everyone, it's a wastage of money. And the second year UPSC said that if you are launching targeted schemes, then you are discriminating against those people who are not covered. So 2 dimensions asked in UPSC. Why? Because there was a huge debate that is there a need to give food to 82 crore people? Where the government of India is saying number of people in India who are poor is 15 crore. But number of people who are getting free food is 82 crores. So there was a huge debate in the newspaper. Why? So these kind of questions are asked from there. So imagine if you are giving that example in the answer, that okay, national food security debate recently happened, automatically your marks will increase. So I strongly suggest that these are the areas. Again, okay, we'll do it later, but first let me give the overview. So for example, as I told you that these are the areas where these highlighted portions, again I repeat, these are the highlighted portions for which you have to do the basic static reading. But it is my observation in the UPSC exam that whosoever writes current affairs in these highlighted areas along with static, they get very high marks. And these are the only value additions which I suggest to my student. Dekho, वैसे people will tell you you can add current affairs anywhere. I'm leaving this part. the role of civil society in democracy. But here also you can write one current affairs. But then to there is no end. So I suggest that you should find out those areas where minimum amount of current affairs is expected. So this is one area. Now GS paper 3, the lesser I speak, the better it is. Right? Another name of GS paper 3 is current affairs. Right? So these are the highlighted areas where you have to, like entire science and technology, environment, everything. It's all current in nature. So this is GS paper 3, which is current affairs. Do you have the highlighted portions? And to my online students, you have the handout, you don't have the handout. You didn't get it. It should be available, but some of them have. Okay, no problem. I'll speak to the team and get it uploaded along with the video. Don't worry. So this is your GS paper 3, entire security. So your entire environment, there they expect current affairs from you. GS paper 4, directly I'm not writing current affairs, but here also you can make reference of it, but directly you should not write, but yes, application based you should. So this is your current affairs part. Let's come back. Here, let's read this. It's there in your handout. Again, to my online friends, guys, don't worry. The moment your session is over, I'll again get it uploaded. You will also get the same handout, don't worry. But see here, please. What is this? Number of, first of all, GS paper 1, all the components. And these bold numbers that you see, these are the average number of questions asked from that subject till 2024. What is this highlighted part? So for example, from geography in GS paper 1, if 7 questions are asked on an average every year, 2 questions directly require you to handle current affairs. So 7 questions are asked from geography. At least in 2 questions, I normally find they are very, very heavily oriented towards current affairs, even in GS paper 1. And then you can find Indian society. If 5 questions are asked, in 3 questions you require current affairs in main. So if I were you, you know what I'll do? If I have to prepare for GS paper 1 from today, so let's say in my next session, I'll tell you that how to prepare GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me tell you today itself. So suppose that I have to prepare GS 1 today. How will I divide my preparation? I'll divide my preparation like this. I'll say that, okay, first let me look at the entire syllabus of GS paper 1. And then I know that roughly 5 questions will be asked from Indian society and geography 7, but Indian society, highly contemporary, not very difficult to handle. If I work little hard, my mains preparation will be done. And if I work little hard, my preparation related to schemes by Government of India will also be done here. Because social issues, related to social issues, only schemes are launched. So I will attack this part first if I were you, because I'll find it light on the mind, but highly rewarding. So what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll open GS paper 1. In GS paper 1, I'll try to find out that where is society mentioned. And then I find, wow, this is the society part. So what I'll do is I'll see that, okay, society of India, etc. These are the 3 static areas and these are 3 current affairs areas. The moment I see this, what I'll do first is, because I have to prepare current affairs also, I have to prepare static also. So first I'll select the highlighted part. Because if I read the highlighted part well, then I'll recall that in one of the workshop, it was told to me by the faculty that this is the area of society where both static and current is asked. So I'll prepare the static part from here. So for example, I'll prepare that how the population of India has evolved, which is the watershed year for change of population structure of India. So from 1921 onwards, what happened to India's population? Birth rate, death rate, MMR, IMR, what happened to India? Demographic dividend, when is it going to end? What is silver dividend? Are we getting old as a country? When we will start to get old? Because when we start to get old, there will be no savings. There will be less of saving, because savings will be used as pensions. So I will read all the details and then I'll make some pointers that, okay, what are the static notes that was taught to me in my GS class or some reference book. So these 3 points, I will make very, very short diagrammatic kind of notes. I'll close it. I'll do the same thing in other parts of GS paper 2 and 3. I'll close it one by one. The moment this is done and then I open the newspaper, I'll remember that my faculty told that, hey, see, from here you have to gather current affairs. So if I open the newspaper, you will invariably see the newspaper articles will be related to the highlighted areas. Ab dekh lo, open any day's newspaper article. Now you have this handout with you where highlights are mentioned. You tally the newspaper articles and see that those articles will be related to these highlighted areas. So now I have got a structure in 2 pages related to population or 1 page structure. I will add current affairs here. But if you directly start to make current affairs notes, think about it. What will you write? आप क्या लिखोगे? You will write population of India 141 crore. Okay. Now how many women are there? 50%. Male 50%, female 50%. Done. Wastage of time. But if I have a structure which tells me that this is the demography, in demographic there are 2 things. One is the important ratios and terms like infant mortality, like maternal mortality, what is demographics. I have all these things. And on the second hand, I have some schemes, policies, and trend. So when I read newspaper, if I see that maternal mortality in India has improved, oh wow, I'll write it here. That earlier the number of deaths related to childbirth was very high, now it has come down. I'll write it and I'll write positive development. And if I read that, oh, government of India has launched a scheme related to it, immediately I'll put an arrow and write this scheme. Then in this structure, my current affairs note is complete. But imagine I'm not having any structure and I'm making current affairs notes. Then what will happen is I will have these pages. Ye dekho. Then what will happen? I'll have these kind of notebooks, GS 1, 2, 3, 4. Each will be 100 pages, 200 pages, 150 pages. I'll simply keep on writing points. Demographic dividend this, MMR this, no connection. I have no idea where to use. And before the exam, I'll think, abhi where to use it, how to revise. This should be secondary. In a current affairs class, as I told you, that typically everybody will tell you current affairs is the king. I don't agree to it. I believe that static part is the king. Current affairs adds on to it. But that addition part is 30% of your UPSC questions. So you should have a structure of demography. How is the Indian demography shaped? And then you should add current affairs to it, to that structures. So everybody's structure will be slightly different. Similarly, in this fact book, what will come? Maternal mortality rate, for example, in India is 838. I'll just write it and done. Where will the explanation be given? In this book. But where will the fact be mentioned? Here. So if I know that I'm appearing for prelims, I'll just open this. And I'll see definitions, 1 line definition, 1 line fact, 1 line trend. And I'll just quickly glance to it and done. But if I need some explanation, I'll come here. Can I use this in mains? 100% yes. So guys, how to make notes here? Bulky notes? No. Diagrammatic notes? Yes. Do you need to have a structure of the notes? Yes. For example, how could I give you MSP structure? And you understand MSP is constantly in the news all the time. Whether it should be legal, whether it should not be legal. Should you write paragraphs after paragraphs? No, you should not. How should you write it? You should write it in the form of a diagram, a structure, and whenever current development happens, just add on to it. Ek example leta hu. Let me give you the example of WTO. So for example, let's say WTO is from your international studies. Ye dekhiye. See this, please. This is your agriculture notes. A current development says, this is almost like 15 days back, a news came. Somebody has again filed a case against India related to sugar. That India is giving more sugar subsidy. And who has filed a case against India? Australia. Australia has again filed a case in WTO and says, India, you are giving more subsidy in sugar. Because this MSP note, 22 plus 1. Right? For sugar, we give FRP. Australia has filed a case in WTO. WTO has given a notice to India. Where will that WTO notice be put in this entire structure? The entire, if you look at the entire structure, the WTO notice gets put here. Because here procurement is happening. What is WTO saying? WTO is saying that India, if you procure artificially at a price which is not the market price, but you are supporting your sugarcane producers, sugar industries by giving them huge amount of money. So what will happen is government of India keeps on buying sugar from the factories, from the farmers, sugarcane. So government of India, what they are doing is they are buying the sugar and then they are exporting it. So now Australia is saying, this is very nice. You go to your farmers, give them huge amount of money, you buy the sugarcane and the sugar, and then you export it in the global market at low prices. Then you will destroy me. This is the case against India. So in this whole diagram, if I have to bring WTO angle, I'll bring it here and I'll say that WTO has questioned this plus 1, 22 plus 1 ka plus 1 has been questioned because there is a clause by WTO called as de minimis clause, where WTO says that there is a limit up to which you can give MSP or support price to your farmers. I'll write it here. My current affairs is done. Now imagine one day When I want to revise for a test series or UPSC, I do not need to study WTO separately. I'll open this diagram. And what will I do? I'll simply check it here and I'll say in last 1 year, has any current affairs happened related to WTO? Oh yes, I can see I have written it. But who gave me this structure? My GS class notes. So I do not think that current affairs is possible in a mature manner without having some knowledge of static areas. Otherwise, it is not possible. So what is the takeaway from this session? The takeaway from this session is, why did I hold this session before your plan for UPSC session? The reason that I am holding this session is because I wanted to tell you that if you truly want to study current affairs, or if you truly want a plan for GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4, you please have this handout in your hand, which I have given you, where I have mentioned all the highlighted parts. These are your current affairs oriented part. And I strongly suggest you that you study them first from your GS notes, etc., and create a structure for yourself, just like I have created. And then you apply those ideas, which I gave you 9 pointers for current affairs. Whenever you get a news, those 9 pointers you should apply, and you try to write answers. So if you get a news related to MSP, you straight away write the 9 pointers and you fill it here. Your news related to MSP, complete. I do not feel that there will be anything which you cannot answer. You have the capability to answer because you know the static part, and you have decoded the current affairs using these 9 pointers, which will help you to answer the questions. As you mature in current affairs, your mind will tell you that in future, you do not need to separately create a structure from static, because everything will be there in the mind. But Abhi, I suggest that from today itself, you take the highlighted parts of GS 1, 2, 3, whatever highlights I have mentioned, take out your GS notes, etc., create a structure, convert them into 1, 2 pages structure, wherever I have marked it in the highlight. Then you start to read the newspaper and see where you can add those articles. If there is any article in the newspaper which you are not able to connect to the static part, use my principles, where I have given these 9 points. You read this article, do not need to copy paste the article. Just take your notebook, GS 1, 2, 3, 4 note, which I showed you. Write the title of the article. Like the title of this article is Framework for SDLs. Write this as a heading. And below that, you write these 9 points. And in front of every point, you write the answer. Your note making for this SDL is complete. Now imagine, instead of these 9 points, you're writing paragraphs. What is the end of life then? Whole life we'll keep on writing current affairs only, but we have to crack the exam in 1 or 2 attempts. We don't have that much time. This is your jugaad. So this, according to me, should be the takeaway from this kind of session. Now, let me take some questions from your online friends, and I'll take some questions from you guys. So your friend is saying, I don't have an idea. I'm basically a commerce student. I don't have an idea of either static or current level. How to proceed from level 0? Answer to your question is, as I have said, and I still stick to it, because I did not give you a plan for prelims. I gave you a plan for prelims, mains, and interview. A holistic plan, so that one day I can also call you here, so that you can inspire the next generation of students. So my idea is that whatever highlights I have mentioned in your handout, if you have not got, you will get it. From those areas, you first do the static part and give yourself 15 days so that you can do all those points. In 15 days, you make sure that you do at least 1 round of revision of static areas. Then the 9 pointers which I mentioned, in front of that, you can fill those points from newspaper. Current affairs difference, that GD, that our team will tell you definitely. आप इनको बता दीजिएगा. Okay, can we scroll down? Highlighted will be static or dynamic from the handout. Whatever is the highlighted area, it's a mix of static and dynamic, but those are the parts, the highlighted part, which you should revise first before getting into newspaper. Does CA impact static questions? 100% yes. If your current affairs is not up to date, your static areas will look very weak. If you are writing an answer on MSP and you are not updated with current affairs, the debates that are happening, your answer will look almost baseless. So I suggest that you do it. How to deal with editorials? For that, I have a suggestion for you. Ab dekho the dangerous part. Ye hai dangerous part, which might give you a lot of headache. Have a look at this, please. This is your 1-year plan for current affairs self-study. So first of all, newspaper. Second, you need one set of copies like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's your fact book. This is the only new thing which I'm asking you to add. The next part is your magazine. Ab dekho how to use the magazine carefully. Suppose you are beginner, you are reading newspaper, you have no clue about GS 1, 2, 3, 4, you don't know how to make this fact. No problem. You read newspaper every day. Please, guys, newspaper is, uh, as you have been told multiple times, that newspaper is not only a source of knowledge or information, etc. But newspapers, I think, sets the tone for UPSC. It gives you the right framework to think. So you should read newspaper every day, even if you are not able to do completely one article from polity, one from IR, one from economy. Make it a rule, just like we breathe. We don't skip breathing. So one article from polity, economy, and IR should be something which you should breathe every day. So that is a rule that you should follow. So that's number one. Number two, if you don't want all this, there is no problem. Then you go select one magazine. Suppose that you don't have time, or you feel that there is no need to make these bulky things. Totally agreed. If you feel this is not for you, at least this you should not skip. ISCO you can skip, but this you should not skip. And you have seen the reason, because here we are adding only pointers. This should be a rule. I think you should follow it. Third is a magazine. You can select any magazine of your choice. I told you that this session, and especially being in Vajiram, I have realized one thing, that there is no need to pressurize you to select this or that. You select any magazine which helps you to understand the content. That's it. Any magazine which helps you to become comfortable in the subject, you select it. Recital being one of them. See, 3 years back, even I was not vouching for recitals, but if you ask me today, since last 2 years, even I refer to recitals when I teach. I do make sure that just to check through it, so that if I miss something, I can do those points from there. So it's a good magazine, but if something else or other magazine makes you comfortable, you should go ahead with that, because I don't believe that any magazine is bad. It's current affairs after all. How can it be bad? But recitals is one of the good magazines, so you can consider that as well. So you take any magazine here, and from this magazine you try to see the current affairs you are studying from here. So suppose you are studying current affairs related to polity, then the same month you getting magazine as well, you please read the polity news. If you have already done it from newspaper, I suggest don't repeat it. Don't waste your time, because same thing will come in the newspaper and magazine multiple times, multiple months. If you are doing it from there, don't read it. If you skipped something there, you do it from here. So this should act like a complement. It should not be the case that you should do it from here and here, double counting triple times. Don't do it. If you do one article from here, don't do it from here. Editorial you do from here. Why? Because in the initial stages of your preparation, you don't have the background. And if you directly start to read the editorials, which are very conceptually challenging, it gives a lot of headache. Fear there will be a problem. And Shakti was right in one thing, which I always tell my students in the class. This stage of your preparation, you are not equipped to give ideas from your side. And if you do it, you will have to substantiate it from some research or some agency globally or in India who have said something similar. If you start to give vague ideas that increase the income of Indians, poverty will come down. Absolutely wrong. Per capita income, to वैसे भी it is increasing. Income has nothing to do with poverty directly. It's about distribution, not about income. So if you start writing these points in the exam, give income, poverty will come down. They will laugh at you. They will say, which theory have you used? It doesn't work in real life. Which means that the thing that you should do from your side is, whatever you have read, you should try to put it more creatively instead of being more, let's say, adventurous in the exam. So what should you do? What is the idea? The idea is to read the magazine. You can read editorial from here. You can give it a reading here, basic, but real studying of editorial happens here, because the background is given, some questions are also given, and some bullet points are also given here. So I suggest that if you are doing editorial from there and you have no clue about what is happening, then you should do it from here. So magazine is a very vital component of your preparation, even though the returns are less. But I suggest that if you do it in conjunction with newspaper, returns increases. But if you substitute newspaper with magazine, dangerous. But if you are doing magazine, newspaper, plus you are doing little bit of magazine just to supplement those things which you have missed or not understood there, then it's a good idea. But then there is something dangerous which is waiting for you. Ye dekho. That's the most dangerous part, February, March. So the February, March is economic survey, budget and schemes. So entire preparation of your current affairs should happen by January. By January, you should be so confident in current affairs that February you can devote in economic survey, budget and schemes, March and April revision. So this is your idea. So guys, put this in your head that in the month of February and March, you will not get any new current affairs. It will be budget, survey and schemes only in different words. So newspaper is not going to bombard you with anything new. It will be just replication of survey and budget. So your real current affairs preparation happens till January. Ab ye kya hai? What is this? This is the only thing which I suggest from my side. You would have seen that in this entire session, I didn't ask you that you should join this course, do that course, etc. But there is one thing which I specifically suggest to you that you should do it, whether you do self-study or you're joining a course. If possible, you should join a test series for current affairs. The reason being that if you read current affairs but you are not tested, how will you know if your direction is right or not? So select any test series which interests you anywhere on this planet. It doesn't really matter, online, offline, wherever it is. But do a test series in current affairs. I feel it is required. And anybody who does not do it normally, they become clueless after 3-4 months, because once you look back, you'll say, what did I do? So this thing should not happen to you. So crux of everything, if I were a student in place of you, what would I do from today? I'll change my approach a little bit, because I don't have to qualify prelims, I have to qualify UPSC. So what is my first approach, change of approach? I'll take this handout. I'll go back home. I'll open GS paper 2 and I will look at the areas which are highlighted. Or why the highlights are not showing here? Highlights are not showing. Oh, but I gave the highlights, I think. What happened? We have marked. Or there is one more thing, that the handouts would be available along with the videos. I'll make sure after the class that this handout is available along with the videos. You'll get it. Don't worry. So what I'll do is, if I were you, I'll read the highlighted portions. I'll immediately revise the GS parts. I'll create a small structure, a workable structure in 1 page, 2 page, simple. And then I'll open the newspaper from, let's say, after 1 week, because it will take me 1 week to 10 days to do all these things. After 1 week or 10 days, I'll open the newspaper and I'll say my exam cycle has started. Every time I get a news, I'll try to see if in this workshop, whatever was highlighted matches with the news or not. And I guarantee you it will match. So once it matches, then I'll say, Acha, okay, I have already created a structure on e-governance projects of India. A news comes, GS paper 2 e-governance. Immediately, I will use these 9 pointers and I will take my notebook and I will write these 9 pointers. Heading will be e-governance. And I'll answer those 9 pointers here. And then I'll match it with my static area and see, okay, I have the basic idea. E-governance has 6 parts. I have the current affairs news schemes. Now, whenever a question will be asked in prelims, I can answer. Question asked in mains, I can mix. This is what I'll do. Monthly magazine, how to do it? In monthly magazine, if I have to crack UPSC, what I'll do is, every time I get a magazine, I'll first study economics, I'll then study IR, then I'll study science and tech and environment, then I'll study polity and governance, because polity and governance will be used for mains. Now, how do I cover the monthly magazines? If I have read 5 articles from newspaper, I don't have time to read everything 5 times. I'll not read it in the magazine. I'll have confidence over myself that over a period of time, I'll become mature. So I'll skip that part from the magazine. Whatever I have not done in the newspaper, that I'll read from the magazine. Initially, this might be very controversial for some of you, but I stick to it. Initially, you should read almost all the news of the magazine for 1 or 2 months. Then you will get an understanding or knack that, okay, in a magazine, these things are not to be read. But if I tell you by giving examples in the class that, okay, these are the things you should do, example can only be valid for this month. Next month, again, same problem will happen. So 1 or 2 months, I suggest, make your hands dirty. You take the entire magazine and read it cover to cover just this month. It will give an idea to you that these are burden things, we should not do it. Because these things cannot be converted into 9 pointers. Your mind will tell you. Whenever somebody gives me an article in the magazine and says, read it, I'll convert it into 9 pointers. I'll say, can I convert it into 9 pointers? No, I'll not read it. Because that means either it will not be asked in the exam, or if it will be asked, I'll leave it. I don't have to answer 100% questions. And for 1 or 2 unique questions, I will not waste 1 hour. So if I can convert something into 9 pointers, I will do it. Otherwise, for the time being, I'll keep it aside. And newspapers have a rule. Everything in the newspaper is repeated in a gap of 3 to 4 months. Issues are same. So if you are studying, farmer suicide, it will come in the news again after 3-4 months when another cropping cycle comes. So I suggest that if you miss out on something in the first 3 months, May, June, July, don't panic, don't bother, because in the month of August, again, you will see those same things in the newspaper. So if I were you, This month, I'm going to work a little extra hard. I'll read all the magazines, one magazine cover to cover, and I will try to identify which are the areas which gives me headaches, which should not be read because they don't fit in my 9-pointer rule. I'll leave them. Next magazine, when I open next month, I'll straight away go the 9 pointers rule and I'll say, does it fit my 9 points? If no, sorry, I'm not going to do it. And if I miss out on something important, I'll remember that my faculty told in the class that even if you miss something in a cycle of 3 to 4 months, it's repeated. So that confidence I'll have. And even then, if I miss something, I have joined a test series. So I'll recover from there. This is the way to do current affairs. So guys, before I took your session, even I was smiling and thinking, and I was speaking to Shakti, and I was speaking to so many other people, that what are they going to tell you about current affairs? And I realized, speaking to them, that there is no one-shot formula. So if you think that there is one-shot formula for current affairs, there is none. So is there a mix of formula hybrid? Yes. Like the 9-pointer rule is there, the fact book, which I told you. Then I told you the first month, the May month, you should not be doing current affairs. I suggested that first you do those highlighted parts first, so that you can establish good connect with current affairs. And from next month, if I were you, I'll do current affairs seriously. But one thing which you should do every day, summary, one article at least from polity, IR, and economy. Every day as a rule, just like oxygen. Even if I don't understand, I'll do it. So from next month, your static and current should be done together. This is the idea. Now, a candidate, yes, the questions differ, definitely. How do we cover current affairs from the previous year, 2 years to be done? Guys, there is only one way of doing the current affairs of previous 2 years. It is through test series. And I told you that I'll tell you one jugaad. The jugaad is test series. You join any test series anywhere. You will see that when they make questions, if they give you like 4 options in the exam to a question, 1 or 2 options will be current, 1, 2 options will be last 2 years of current affairs. They'll make you revise it. That's one jugaad. Second jugaad is, what you need to do, you can currently, some magazines are available in the market which are called as like 1 year of summary or something like that. They will call it as 1 year review. Vajiram also has it. So you select any magazine of your choice which is available for this year's prelim student, those who are appearing this year, because your serious attempt is next year. That's what I understand. You buy that magazine this year itself, and in that magazine, I suggest you to do 2 things from there, because I have seen questions coming in the exam. One is the environment part, because in the name of current affairs, UPSC has been asking environment questions which goes back to 2 years. And the second is economics part. These are the only 2 things which you should do, and I think it should take care. So if you are buying 1 year of review, either from the Vajiram book is available online, I think. You can get it and take the printout. If not Vajiram, you are doing anything, do it, there is no problem. Do it from any source, but do environment and do the economics part, because science tech will change. Environment and economics I have found to be asked in the exam of last 2 years. So that our team will tell you, Sandhi. Illustrate one more time the structure of topics briefly. Yeah. So you will get the handout copy. I'll get it uploaded with the yellow mark thing. If it's not there, I'll make sure that I mark it and upload it again. So follow this structure, guys, and wait for my session on answer writing using current affairs. That will be my next session. Iske baad, there will be one session where I discuss with you the plan for GS 1, 2, 3, 4. But before that plan, I want you to go through these highlighted parts, because I'll bring questions in the class from these highlighted parts. I'll teach you through questions and answers in the class how to write answer. But if you don't do the highlighted parts, as in the parts which I have highlighted, then how will you practice with me in the class? You will have no content then, and you will be bored in the class. Because if contribution doesn't come from you, then how will you improve? So for that, this is part 1 of the series of workshops. Part 2 will be where you will come prepared with the static areas, and we will have interaction. For example, I'll ask you questions. So I'll ask you questions that, can you please tell me the difference between type 1 error and type 2 error in the implementation of government schemes GS paper 2? These are the questions that I can ask you. I'll ask you the question of role of society in the community development. All the community development programs, what is the role of the civil society? These are the parts which you have to study from GS 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Just do it. 9 points you missed out. I'll put it in the handout. Give me a day. I'll put the handout with those 9 points again. No problem. All right, guys. So see you in the next session then. All fine? Cool. So thank you so much. And see you soon in another session then. Thank you, guys. So, guys, next time do come prepared, huh? And I take you guys very seriously, and I hope that you will come prepared with the static areas. Maybe 10 days. 10 days. In 10 days, try to do it so that I can hold a session and make you practice in the class.